one bastard who can't look down on them in 5 seconds after it's over. And I was going to marry one. So this is Gloria talking right after she gets broken up with. Confiding and nevertheless a friend of Alton.
You know, that's the Priya character, but go ahead.
So, crossing to Gloria. Maybe he'll change his mind. He was sort of in a state of shock about it. I mean, trying to understand. It's very complicated about Alton. Gloria. Oh, so he's in a state of shock. Oh, Jesus. That yellow-faced bastard. He's shocked. Look, Sid, I'll bet you 2 to 1 that at this instant he is lying dead drunk in the arms of the blondest or blackest 2-bit hooker in town. Cleopatra. Nursing his shock. Telling his tale of woe. His tale. She'll be telling it somewhere by morning to the girls and roaring with laughter, like I'm doing now. What the hell am I carrying on for? It wouldn't have worked. And besides, the life beats the hell out of that 9 to 5 jazz. Suddenly a violent sob. So she's, I'm laughing now, and suddenly breaks into a violent sob. Sydney, what happened to my life? He tries to go to her. She holds out a hand to stay him. I'll be 26 this winter, and I have tried to unalive myself 3 times since I was 23. I was always awkward, but I'll make it. Or maybe a loony trick will be thorough some night. Then she sits up. Well, that's enough gloom and doom, everybody. Come on. Sydney, brother, cheer up. So she rumples his hair, nuzzles playfully in a desperate attempt at gaiety and release. After all, how many things could a nice, normal, healthy American girl kick all at one time? The racket and the pills. And take on integration, too. Tih, weaving towards the phonograph. Let's have some music. And none of the creepy stuff my creepy father used to play. So she just weaved this character. This character's weaving in and out after being broken up with by her boyfriend. She's like, oh, people go after this type of thing because this is the only type of man that can't look down on me, the person who sees me as a destitute. And she starts drinking pills. She's taking pills and drinking. Then gets suddenly jolly after having an outburst and says, let's turn on some music and start dancing together. Now, where are you at, Pam?
Meet the strangers, go to the club, you know, talk to the strangers about her life and with her man. And her moment of jolly is to go to the club and buy everybody champagne on his bill. But
oh, yeah. Yep. That's her, the phonograph. The modern day phonograph is just bottle service. And bonking your head on the DJ booth to get the good music played.
Exactly.
But yeah, you guys are peeping it all. We've got a lot of wows in here. Tracker's summing it up. It's just more bullshit. And then wow, just, yeah. So Rosemary says, wow, just wow. Yeah, Jonathan Majors was going to dump her after this play anyway. That's why she showed her the text. Now, I am going to finish reading this page because I'm not sure if it's not underlined, but we're going to read it for just in case. But doesn't this put into perspective her testimony about they go to this dinner right after seeing this play? Oh, we argued about something, but I don't really know about what. And we were like, well, she's still pissed about the button thing and the Priya Satyani thing, and she's just being unclear about it. Pam, you and I go see a movie together. We go get food right after the movie. We're not talking in the theater. We go see a movie together. We go to dinner. What are we talking about when we get to that dinner?
The movie.
So what do you think was the big controversy and issue that she was so tense? She described that beginning of the dinner being tense until it got really lovely after they had some drinks. What do you think was being discussed?
About that character, about what's going on. And he probably mentioned some parallels between their lives and the characters. You know how you sit down and you talk? You know, there's some parallels, you know, with us talking and everything and us breaking up and all this other, there was some parallels. And so it was tense until you started drinking because of that's your pacifier. So now you're pacified and now you're fine. And then you get into the car and Cleopatra calls. And now you upset. And you see this, and now you're starting to see such parallels between what happened, what she did versus this play. You all are together. He tells you what his standards and things are. He wants you to have your behaviors mimic or be like Coretta Scott or Michelle Obama. You've been told that. You find out something about her that you dislike or whatever that is. You make, instead of just saying, for him, instead of saying, look, we threw whatever, Cleopatra calls. Now you're upset. And she's starting to see this spiral, whether we want to believe it or not. it's like you said, it's still fresh on her head. This play, how these things broke up. She's trying to contact him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. She goes to the club. She tries to satiate herself because the liquor makes her feel good. She's dancing, listening to the music, getting
And we're reading it, but she saw it acted out. So she gets to see the visuals of, at least from an actor. And this is an award-winning, award-nominated production, right? So presumably good acting of these visuals going on here. We don't know the screenplay, but if this person's doing this dramatic dancing and then the drinking and the pills, that's a visual in her head, no matter how drunk she might be at 3, 4 in the morning. You can picture that stuff, even if you can't remember the words.
But we didn't see the text, the progression of what she was saying in those texts. You know, it's a big progression of what she's saying into those texts. And when that didn't work, you got to have somebody that you talk to. You got to have somebody that you confide in. And it has to be somebody that knows both you and Jonathan, aka Holly.
Specifically Holly, because yeah, we got some mention that, you know, she tried to contact her sister at some point, but that was the only other like stray that was brought up. Otherwise it was just Holly. She didn't try to contact any of her Glastonbury friends that had just been in New York and obviously had met Jonathan Majors before for the Mariah Carey concert. It wasn't like she was distanced from them. During the trial and reading the transcripts, I was like, well, maybe she said she didn't hang out with them as much. Maybe why would she call someone she hasn't even talked to? They were all just in town. Like, they were all just there. And Holly doesn't live in the country either. So the England difference doesn't make a difference.
And didn't Holly testify that, you know, she wasn't part of her immediate friend group. So she wouldn't be anybody that she would.
Holly wouldn't talk to the other people either and cross communications and see, hey, these what do you think? Oh, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I want to help her, but she said something that I thought Jonathan was kind of nice. She didn't want that commingling, that intermingling of information.
And she had her, what was the guy there that testified with her?
Ben Toddy.
Okay, he's there. He's in New York as well.
And that's Holly's manager too. So it's not like the association's disconnected.
Through all of that, she could have definitely called him to come pick her up.
These comments are on it. You guys peep everything in here. So Majors was dating an enemy. What the heck is wrong with her? Or call her manager. Like, some of this is... And then the driver had it dead to rights when he called her psycho girl. Hey, man, that translator, block that out.
And so that makes you go back. To me, that makes me want to go back. I know you had talked about the July, but that really makes me want to go back to that September time, right after the Toronto Film Festival, when you came home drunk with the other person. That really makes me want to go back and to see the behaviors being displayed. Because it had to be more than just coming home drunk. Because if you come home drunk and you live there, if you're home drunk, you're home drunk. I mean, like I said, you may have a conversation with her, but she brought somebody else home.
And testified that she wasn't drunk. You know, we can disagree with her testimony and not find it credible, but according to her, she didn't even come home drunk and she still made the decision to bring someone else over. So to her, that's a slightly sober decision, right?
Or maybe something, you know, if we go by her party mindset, it's nothing to have somebody else come home, but you have to engage your partner. And let's be clear, ladies, particularly when you're not paying any bills.
Any.
You have to engage that person. You have to call them, give them a heads up. Can you imagine if you're at home and I'm an introvert. You wouldn't have been able to cross the threshold with that person, because I'd have been like, okay, since you need to hang with that person, y'all need to get out. Because I would have been the person, y'all have to go.
If you want to hang out so bad, find your own place to go do it. Go hang out at their flat.
Place else. But you're talking about someone, and this is the thing that I think people miss. You're talking about someone who worked for a company where scripts and things and all those types of things were secret. And can you imagine not being able to be in your home, reading your script in line and putting it on a table? That person could have picked that script up.
Because they're drunk, and within an hour, they're on the phone with Holly. They're on the phone with their mom. They're going over to hang out with their friends and talk about everything that just happened. Mm-hmm. Loose lips. Like, yeah. Yeah, major problem.
Yeah,
like,
so that...
just the intellectual property there.
Yeah, so that is telling me I can almost I can empathize with the types of behaviors, and particularly if that's not what you're used to. If you're, because no one's saying that he's a choir boy. Nobody is saying that he doesn't drink or anything like that. But when you can recognize somebody drinking to the point where their cognitive skills are a little impaired, you just don't bring. And see, I had still haven't. I
And
still
they start disrespecting things in general. Like, it doesn't seem like she was listening to him, which means, it's not just an issue of someone's coming into the house and could hear something. It's the idea that we've probably had this conversation already, and you're just still continuing to disregard it. And at some point, alcohol can't be the excuse anymore. Yeah, you do something drunk, you don't remember doing it, you get a free pass, right? You're not usually like that. You broke a glass last night on accident because you were dancing and you swung it, whatever. But you keep doing that over and over, and people are telling you, hey, you really are clumsy. You're going to injure yourself one day. If you keep doing it, at some point, people are like, we told you. We told you so. You've got no one else to blame but yourself. Fool me once. So, Grace
Mm,
JABBBARI.
mm. This shout out to Daisy.
Shout out to Daisy. Like,
Daisy
holy
went.
moly, shout out to Daisy.
Does she have any more?
It keeps going a little bit. So,
Okay.
let's see if this page is not underlined, but there was some stuff over here that wasn't underlined that was good too. So it continues, let's have some music and none of that creepy stuff my father used to play. So she puts on a record, some very modern jazz. It throbs low and warm and intense. Yeah, that's good. I have to have music. It helps to close things out. It envelopes you. She beckons and Sydney moves into her arms. They begin to dance in a tight embrace. He in a bemused and delicious half stupor, she as if, in the mere physical body contact, she were clinging to life. Now the denaturalization of these moments begins to heighten as per their state. A light deathly blue of great transparency settles slowly, as imperceptibly as possible. It gives way to a hot and sensual fuchsia. The music follows suit, the more familiar jazz sounds going even beyond their own definitions. When each speaks, it is stiffly and unnaturally, intoned with a heightened fragmented assertion beyond sense or sequence, as if lucidity no longer required logic. An absurdist orgy is being created in front of us, a disintegration of reality to parallel the disintegration in Sydney's world. Things as they are as they are, and have been, and will be that way because they got to be, because things were as they were in the first place. So that's kind of a good line right there. Things got to this point because that's how they always were. So you're doing this whole, that's referring to, the Greenwich culture that Sydney's intertwined in for the political reasons, and the relationship angle that both Sydney and Iris are intertwined in, and Gloria was intertwined with Alton before Alton removes himself. But things are this way for you, Gloria, because they've been this way for you.
All the time.
So let's see. And now we're going to get into the details of the unaliving. So we've got a lot of underlines here. So Gloria nodding up and down drunkenly, and you've been looking for him ever since. So this jumps, by the way. I don't think this is it skips 2 or 3 pages here. So we go from 131. We're on 134, and nodding up and down drunkenly, and you've been looking for him ever since. So they must be talking Alton. They can't find him. David says he never came back. And now David says, there is a beautiful burnished golden boy, very much like Nelson, sitting on a chair upstairs. So there's a client upstairs. He is from one of the oldest, finest families in New England. He is exquisite, but great damage has been done to him. So Gloria says, description, for this girl there are no surprises left. And then she says, he requires the presence of a woman, not just any girl, but someone young enough, fresh enough, in certain light, to make him think it is somebody of his own class. Yes, but there is nothing to do. Apparently, it is merely a matter of watching. So this guy is into voyeurism. So Gloria then raises her eyes pathetically. And you're a friend of Sydney's? So now Gloria seems to be judging the friend David. David says, it's not for me. Perhaps you can understand. If he asked for the snows of the Himalayas tonight, I would try to get it for him. I thought, you might know of such things. So Gloria, now agonized, oh, I know of such things? David says, well, will you come up? Gloria describes a beat, not really to him. Sure, why not? So she must just be like, sure, why not? To herself. David says it's apartment 3F that this client is waiting for her in. They describe, he goes out and up. Gloria stands for a long moment, looking after him, then crosses quickly to the phonograph, which she turns up louder, as if to drown out some voice that speaks only to her. till the persistent lonely chaos of the music fills the room. She tries to dance a little. That doesn't work. She downs more goofball pills with liquor. Then, snapping her, just picture the Lucy's. She's dancing. She keeps doing more shots. Then she needs to take sleeping pills when she gets home. Then, snapping her fingers and undulating a little to the rhythms in the room, with a fixed smile, she goes out. But as she mounts the third step, she freezes in the grip of a physical revulsion she can no longer contain, then suddenly whirls. Now, do you guys remember that little bit of testimony? It was like where she started to be inconsistent. Grace JABBBARI started saying, I woke up on the bed because I was in pain on my right side, and that's when I noticed my ear. At some point in that little blurb of testimony, she ends up saying, oh, did you feel any pain? Oh, I felt hideous. And here Gloria is just like walking up these stairs and suddenly feels physical revulsion. It's that same kind of like mental evolution. What are you thinking, Pam? What are you thinking, Pam?
She tries to dance a little. You go to the club, you pay for all the drinks, you feel revolted. You know, this comes and you're dancing and you hit your head on the DJ booth, and that doesn't seem to help you out of nothing or anything like that. So then you go home and
And yeah, so Serenity, by the way, this is the play that they saw on the night of March 24th, right before they go to that dinner and have the margaritas, and then an hour later they're driving home and everything happens. So this is what we're reading. We're reading the progression of this character, Gloria. Serenity, did you see Gloria? This is Gloria. This is who was playing Gloria in the play. And this is the boyfriend, Alton, that dumps her before she's having this downward spiral that we're reading now before she unalives herself. Yeah.
There's too many parallels for it to just be a coincidence. This is go ahead. This is almost bordering on, I feel like I'm living through somebody's psychosis. I have like a
This is
firsthand
when a 4-year-old sees a Spider-Man movie and just doesn't want to take the Spider-Man costume off for the next 24 hours. Like,
oh my God.
But yeah, it does feel like you can kind of feel how this was co-opted by Grace JABBBARI as an audience member. Well, let's say like Eliza, balls to the walls crazy.
Exactly, because he broke up with her. She couldn't get to him. So, AKA she was texting and texting and texting and texting and texting, and he wouldn't return her text. Texting and texting and texting and texting, and he wouldn't return her calls, calling and calling. So,
well, and then we see that like here, David's like, he never came back. We couldn't find him. You couldn't find him? No. And then and again, this is like a reading of it. It's not the actual screenplay. So all of these paragraphs might not be dialogue in the actual play, but a lot of it's probably acted out. And we have that bit where, oh, I'll bet you Alton, the guy that just dumped me, he's lying dead drunk in the arms of the blondest or blackest two-bit hooker in town, nursing his shock, telling his tale of woe. His tale. She'll be telling it somewhere by morning to the girls and roaring with laughter. Like I'm doing now. So, like, it's one of those things where even Gloria is, like, upset about the next Cleopatra. So, and then I think we get to these details. Are you guys ready? Pam always nails it. Miss Lady says Pam nails it. Pam always nails it.
Let's just catch them up. So now we have them in an interracial relationship. They're together. So a behavior happens that he finds out that's outside of his standards.
His standards, yeah.
His standards or his morals. He breaks up with her. When he breaks up with her, first thing she does, or even just saying around the same time, she goes and talks to somebody that's close and dear to him. Priya Santiani. She talks to her. She has these visions of somebody else coming in taking her spot. She doesn't like that, so she let me see where she was. She starts to dance and goes to the club and drinks all this stuff. This character is in here. She gets her euphoric and solace in music and dancing and things like that. It's too many parallels that I mean, shout out to Daisy, because I'm just living through somebody's psychosis right now. Oh, geez.
Isn't that crazy? It really feels the same. And then for the cast member to just look like her is just insane. And guys, again, this is less than 24 hours before she's splayed out on the closet floor. They're watching this play the night before. They're watching this play March 24th. And then they sit at a dinner afterwards and get to talk about it.
You seen the character, how she had her hair? You remember while she's on the street, she keeps performing by putting her hair up and down into the ponytail.
Just
So
visualizing it up.
exactly. Child, this is a mess.
Picture's
Oh,
worth 1,000 words.
oh, this is a mess.
And Tracker says being Mrs. Majors and living that real housewife life, and then getting those alimony and child support texts for the rest of her career. Yeah, having kids and a family. And
And
being
that
able to travel with all her friends, while
and
Jonathan
that's
Majors had no rules for it,
life.
no ability to have standards.
The way you live, you having kids right now, that didn't seem, but that's just me. I don't know. That's just to make everybody believe the wholesomeness about you.
Or the promises and why you stuck around, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I would have, stuck around that $20 million Marvel contract that would have come, and you missed out on that, and it's been messed up. So anyway, go ahead. My head is just
No, and I
spinning right
agree because if he had broken up with her before, your opportunity to get out was there.
now. Yeah.
You were already made to get out, and you forced your way back in by manipulating, in my opinion, him to get back in. And then you just flip the script now that it has to become a trial and you have to cover your tracks.
Oh, and he said Grace Jabari with full method. Shoot, she was the one that needed to
That's why she had to act like she didn't know what it was. I mean, maybe she couldn't say it. I don't know. Maybe that was an inadmissible phrase. But she didn't know what method acting was, maybe, at that point in time where she had to testify. Heck yeah. We're skipping Daisy Agreed. She is ahead of the class.
I'm telling you.
Thank heavens he didn't knock that girl up. Oh my god. Oh yeah, so method acting, that's why she's an actress now.
Hey, the biggest stage is life. If she could play this out in life, she could get on stage and do what she want to do now.
The world is a stage.
Exactly.
So we're at the point where she is freezing in her own grip of physical revulsion. She can no longer contain, and then she suddenly whirls. Her words are a single guttural cry of pain. Sick people belong in hospitals. Then it describes, for a long moment her eyes dart frantically and she whimpers, trapped, seeking refuge. There is none. At last she looks at the bottle of pills in her hand, walks slowly back and stands, spent, in the doorway. Then, resolutely, Papa, I am better than this. Now will you forgive me? So they're pointing out that the character has like dad issues or attachment, abandonment issues. She crosses to the bedroom, clutching the bottle, halts, terrified at the unseen presence there, turns away, but then, with a final lift of her head, she enters and closes the door. The phone begins to ring as the lights slowly dim. Sydney sleeps on, and then the lights dim out.
That's
what are you
why
thinking, Pam?
The bathroom and not the closet where they find you. No, I'm in the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom. I was in the bathroom. I wasn't in the closet. I was in the bathroom.
Because it gives an alternative to you staging a visual in the closet by yourself. Because if you're in the bathroom because you just got sick and passed out unconscious, people are like, wow, you know, you did have drinks. It's she's like using the thing she wants to downplay to play up into another lie at the same time. Two sides of the mouth. With that whole theory, I only had a couple drinks and I had lots and lots of food, lots of meats. Like, all right, so you're trying to say that you weren't drunk at all. But then at the same time, you want us to believe that you didn't purposely put yourself on the closet floor, that you either took a nap because it was warm on the bathroom floor, or was so drunk that you passed out unconscious and couldn't have planned to put yourself there.
Well,
right after you saw this play.
Right after you saw this play, and you still have to be able to explain why are you half naked in the closet.
Jill says he was at the finish line in March. Well, almost. He almost got there, and then he had to go back and find the car. Can you call crying a lot acting? IMDb classifies her as an actor now. What did Cleopatra do on Valentine's Days last year? Do you mean actually like the Cleopatra, the actress? Or if we know where like Jonathan's whereabouts were on February 14th, and if he was or is not with Grace JABBBARI.
Excuse me. Y'all excuse me. I'm getting over the flu and my throat is not coming back like it needs to. But you remember he was promoting Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania in February, and they did make a trek down under. I
Okay.
believe that was
With Grace or the crew?
don't know if he went with Grace. All I remember is that his arms were out, and he made a big point of saying that, he doesn't like to show off his body unless he's on the film. But that particular day and in that particular place in Australia, uh, he was armed out.
Could be similar to that time where he must have told a journalist for Men's Health, "Hey, I'm not single. I'm in a relationship. I'm actually saying I'm in a relationship with somebody." Then something happened that was so compelling that I feel the need to text this journalist and be like, "Actually, I'm very much single now." That's kind of like, when guys are going through it, they want to get their beach body right, right? They want to be able to just go and know they still got it. And girls do this too. I'm not just saying it's one way. But that could be an explanation of the sudden willingness to show the arms off. Right? What do you think, Pam?
Juanita Dark hits it on the head.
She manipulated this play to get him back to the apartment. Yeah, because she doesn't have a David to send out there looking for him. Or maybe she did. We don't know. She contacted other people. She could have been like, "Priya, tell me where he is. You booked the hotel for him, right?"
I don't know. In the testimony, did she call Priya anytime that night?
We don't get
Between
testimony that night. We just get testimony, or tried, it was stricken, that with Chloe, that she was screaming while Jonathan Majors was standing by the car on the phone, and that it was apparently on the phone with his manager booking this. We know he was booking his room during this time, and he was supposed to be standing on the phone with his manager. Technically, his manager could also be Elon Rispoli. Is that also his title, manager as well? I'm guessing it was Priya Satyani, though, if that's the car was booked through Priya. That seems like. And hold on, Priya has all those clients, but she deals with this stuff personally. She doesn't have like someone in her office booking things like hotels
You
and
may
rooms for
you
people.
may call her and say, "I need such and such and such,"
And
but
then she relays.
figured, yeah, she issues it out to whatever, because they call they're I guess they're trained to call their managers for whatever they need and however they need it. So she probably has somebody. I don't know if she has somebody that worked specifically with him,
Yeah,
but
because that would be a lot of clients. Like at this point, at least, like when you look at her 360 list of people, and those might not have all been active clients when we were reading that paragraph, but
right,
that
because
seems like a
everybody,
lot to be on someone's call for 10 different people that need you.
yeah. So yeah, I think, but again, GJ called this woman directly, uh, and was talking to her about him, not the person that, because when you watch him come through on different press things, there was a blonde head lady that was there that was always walking and working with him and stuff like that. I don't know if that's somebody that came out of that office or not, but he didn't have. I guess he called her because of what he found out that GJ was talking and saying to her, and then he was like, you need to do something. You need to get me out of this situation because I don't know. I'm speculating. It's all
Yeah,
alleged.
and we half of what we have to go by is Grace's own creative licensing with it. So
I don't think
there's
she slipped in that closet. It was all prepared and planned. I think that she laid her clothes were laid out over on the side and all this other stuff. The only thing I think that she was shocked by was the fact that there was other folks that were there. And because you can look at her face, it shocked her a little bit.
And I
Because
wonder if Jonathan, if he testified, would say that she was laying pinned straight when he first went up to that room. Like, was she always just laying pinned straight, or did she lay sprawled out for him specifically? And then, like, think she could, like, start maneuvering and get up, but then heard people were arriving and just went and froze up. Because wouldn't that be a killer detail if we knew that her body position changed the whole time she was supposed to be passed out from him checking and then the police walking
think
into
about
that room?
phone. Come on now. If you're on the phone with somebody on the phone, you're not laying like this and you're on the phone. She probably was laying back with her, with her knees up, her legs up, talking and swinging her knees and everything like that. Oh, I hear him. He's knocking at the door. She probably sat up. I hear him knocking at the door. Da 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 da. So then when she was able to get in, that's probably when she went, you know. She probably lied. But then when she heard other people in the coming up the thing and him talking, she probably did like, oh crap, who's this? Because by that point she's naked from the bottom. Now you hear not
Yeah, and
only
where's that phone? Like, the only excuse would be maybe if it was in the pants of those sweatpants that were sitting on the floor next to her. But, you know, phones are big, sweatpant pockets are not that big. And when you're trying to, like, roll them down to take them off, phones pretty easily pop out of them pockets. So it's not that likely that if the phone was in that pocket and she just happened to try to rush her pants off, one, she's obviously still conscious and plotting this because she hears Jonathan. But two, where's that hidden phone? Maybe it's in the sweatpants pocket. But if it's not, if she passed out, where is that phone that she was just using? It should be on the floor, like skidded out. You drop something and it slides on the floor a little bit, but it
body.
stops at a wall. It doesn't get up on a shelf and under and hidden somewhere.
Do you remember the body cam footage where they show her like standing like a little off and it looks like she's trying to fix up the bed or like something?
She gets the phone charger. She grabs her USB cable,
okay.
right? Yeah.
Okay. So
Because
clearly
her phone was dead because she was using it and calling people. That could have been from just her calling one person 32 times, but still.
right, Kai Lawrence. It's just fake.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So they're referring to those September text messages. That's the first thing that the court gets to see. Everything else before it's redacted. Jonathan Majors, we know from the GMA interview, he said, we reconciled in September after we broke up, but she came back over, we reconciled, everything seemed good, and then in the morning, I look at my phone and there's all these text messages, and the first thing I say is, it's just fake. So that gives huge context. But it's another example of Grace JABBBARI just says a lot of dramatic stuff in text messages in general. It's a pattern of behavior on her part. It's very Gloria-like. Very Gloria. And then fake suicide sex is a total relationship saver. And I think when you're a visual artist in the art world, I think you think that even more. And then, is this Ernest? Because it looks like the same acronym. Life really imitated art. It sure did. The play plot happened that night for the most part. Yeah, because she didn't go to sleep between it.
Yeah.
I wonder if she was recording her fake. Can you imagine if she recorded the fake? Oh my God. Can you imagine if the second. So, Pam, I don't know if you were in the chat when we were going over that one part of the motion to set aside the verdict, and one aspect was something that was completely newly discovered since the trial happened. It has to be discovered after. And we had a bit of discussion about what if they got that second phone back that she still had, but she admitted she had? What if somehow they were able to get it back, or her stupid butt decided to finally just hand it back to avoid further problems? What if that's new evidence?
Well, yeah, but me thinking I would have set the phone back to factory setting if I didn't want anything to come on there. But never know. She just probably just threw the phone. But it would be interesting what was on that phone. And
I don't think there would be a filing for it because and this is all hypothetical, guys. I have no news that she turned this phone back over to its owner. But if Jonathan Majors has this phone, right? There's no warrant application needed for him to give permission for someone to go and examine this phone, right? We wouldn't see a public record on it. If he got this phone back that she testified she still had, we wouldn't have the news outlets wouldn't have any indication in the public record that a warrant was applied to go and look at this phone. He'd be able to have someone examine it on his own because it was his property. So that's one thing.
Let me ask, because I don't know how technology has come, how far it's come, but I do remember a time that they could that the phone company would download your text messages and all this other stuff. So anything that she put in that phone, wouldn't it be in the cloud?
So there's the iCloud issue if it was syncing. In the Courtney Clenny case with the parents and the warrants for their arrest for the group text messages that they were having, Apple agreed to the subpoenas and without much of a fight just turned over everything that the state was looking for in regards to those communications. So I know there's been some talk in recent years that Apple's really good about not turning things over. And historically, there's been cases where they've said, no, well, you don't have the right to just demand that of us and we're not going to oblige you. But it doesn't mean that across the board they don't turn things over. So there is also the subpoena option through Apple, but I feel like there would be some record of that because they would have to get a warrant.
He wouldn't if it's his phone. He wouldn't have to apply. He could just say, I need to know what's on
For the
here.
iCloud,
Yeah.
for Apple to well, that's actually true. You're right.
He wouldn't need to do that because if he's the one that's owning the phone and paying for the phone, he could just go to Apple and say, I need everything downloaded off that iCloud or
But what if it was her iCloud account that she signed into? What if
well,
she
then
used her email? So I think there is a I don't
that
know. And guys, this is all complete speculation because I don't know. There's no inkling on my part for me to say, "Hey, maybe maybe there is new evidence." We don't even know that the grounds for this motion to set aside the verdict is on that particular ground that there's some new evidence out there. And even if
would
it
you
was, I have no indication of what the new evidence could be. I'm just speculating that that second phone would have been evidence that wasn't available at the time of trial because Grace Jabari said she still had it. So if they came across information from there, it could apply under that grounds. It could be a viable claim. But I do not know. This is all just us reading tea leaves with a little bit of basis. And then Blue's in the house. Hey, Blue. Good to see you. And then let's see. What's the so the motion is to set aside the verdict. It's pretty much, the kind of thing that it's a lot more constrained than what you can argue on an appeal, and everything contained within it will probably also be argued on appeal. But it's just a mechanism for post-conviction relief that you can file before sentencing. So between conviction and before sentencing. So it's just an avenue that they're trying. We don't have the paperwork in front of us, so we don't know the particular grounds. Let me refresh the Daily News and see if they got any. So Molly doesn't have an update, but Molly with the New York Daily News, they said that they're trying to obtain the motion that Priya filed yesterday. This one motion was filed yesterday. Others were apparently filed this morning. So we'll have to see on that. But if we get it, it'll be good to read, I'm sure.
Yes, it would be a good
And then Tracker, remind everyone it's all speculation.
That's
and then
all
hold on. What is Queen? You guys are catching something here. So Caliber's catching something that Queen says. And then Caliber says, I've always said that Grace Jabbari's ringtone should be Alexander O'Neill's fake. God, now I gotta add something to my list because I don't know what that is.
It's a song.
Oh,
Baby. And
I mean, I agree. I'll just agree blindly that it would be a good ringtone.
It is because it sums it up. That song sums everything up.
Okay, and the service would clone the information via server. His account would maintain a master file. Okay, Fahim, so that makes sense, but is that if the email address signed into the device is Jonathan Major's email address? Because that's considered like personal information too, right? So if it's Grace Jabbari's email address that she owns, she uses, she's logged into other devices before, would you say what you're saying here still would apply? Or would this only apply if it was his email account that was signed into the second device she had? So, but yeah. So Serenity says she's bopping in her seat. Or maybe I'm assuming that I guess that could be a brand, so I'm sorry if I just got you wrong there. But Serenity's bopping in their seat. And then I don't know if we have, let's see, so she clutches this bottle, the lights dim out, and then Daisy just parallels it to the situation. But yeah, Daisy points out he's doing all this. He tries to flee. She goes out and parties, and then Jonathan Majors ends up waking up the next morning to the text messages that are like, there's no note, just you knowing what happened. And then Jonathan Majors saying, did you leave the keys? Goodbye, Grace. Before he goes to the apartment, discovers that lit candle, open suitcase, and being locked out of the bedroom, not even taking into account her drinking problems, clinginess, other personal things, and maybe other troubling things and general habits he knows about her. Just imagine after watching a play less than 24 hours before, where in the final act, a thin, blonde white woman commits unaliving herself by overdosing on pills in an apartment bathroom after being dumped by her African-American boyfriend, only for Jonathan Majors, an African-American man, to come home to his apartment, find his bedroom door locked, have the handyman open it to find Grace Jabbari, thin, blonde white woman laid out on the floor as to appear to be unconscious, wearing a sweatshirt sentimental to Jonathan Majors in the closet, across from the bathroom, and an open, spilled pill bottle in plain view near that area, while Jonathan Majors notices a cut behind her ear and a bruised finger. And then Jonathan had to make the decision to call 911. So Daisy says, imagine what might have sped through his mind before tapping those 3 numbers and then tapping the green call symbol. And once that number was dialed, well, we heard the 911 call. So Daisy is on the money. This is Detective Daisy. Like, this is... So Jonathan Majors this morning walking back into the hotel room, it's less than 24 hours since he just saw this play with Gloria, who gets dumped by Alton and unalives herself. That's what's in Jonathan's head fresh. Because he didn't go out and party and have all these new memories of meeting people to even interrupt it. Right? He goes back to the hotel, he takes the pictures, maybe he had a conversation with somebody, if he was still talking to whoever, and goes to sleep, wakes up. And all he knows is that he has this barrage of calls and texts throughout the night. And then he comes home and sees that visual of Grace JABBBARI on the floor. Not a visual to him. It's real to him.
Do you remember on the police body cam? You remember he was sitting over there like in the corner somewhere of thing, and you remember how he was looking and he gave this little thing like this looking? I bet he was like, this is this damn play. I can't believe. Because he was looking at that suitcase that was on the table. You remember that? He was over there in the corner, like looking at that suitcase on the table. And I'm quite sure this whole play went through his head. This whole thing
Exactly the whole play. Like, I mean, we don't know the visuals that are up there, but you know, when plays want to decorate a house, like, they're going to have like candles on set. They'll have chandeliers to show the time period, right? They're going to show, there's going to be a set. It's going to look like a lived in set. And then he gets home and gets to his house and sees the exact thing. The stairs even, having to go upstairs because it's a 3-story apartment. And Gloria, we have, and her staircase descriptions are because she's about to go upstairs in their apartment building to meet some client that wants to hire her for some voyeurism act or whatever. But there's still this imagery of her going up the stairs and being whimsied into distress and playing music and dancing and finally doing the thing. Like,
because there will be no note. Only you will know.
And you'll know damn well what happened because the play laid it all out. And then, Danny, if you want to pop in quick, I did just send you the link because I would love to just hear. I don't know when you popped in, but I'm sure even just the most recent details we've gone over are details enough. And Blue, I'm going to send you the link too if you want to come in and share your commentary. Because I'm sure you've been here for a few minutes at least, Blue. If you've got some thoughts, there's no shortage of thoughts here, but you guys are welcome to pop on in. And I'm just gonna have this Grace JABBBARI picture sitting up here
right now, girl. This was absolutely great. This was absolutely great. It gave a different perspective on that and why you would go from this man leave it's a whole, because y'all you just saw it less than 24 hours in a play.
And why, like, the idea of us on the outside saying, why would someone stage that?
Yeah.
To, all right, we get that there's crazy people, but how often is someone that crazy enough to do something like that? Is Grace JABBBARI that crazy? Well, you know, obviously my 2 feet were planted firmer on the ground once I saw her own testimony was inconsistent about the bathroom and the bedroom and being asleep and the phone calls, and then the timestamps was like seal, right? Sealed the deal for me with the 11:07 text to Holly Blakey. But then you still want to know why. Like, what, you really thought that this type of thing would work? This is your idea of romance? You see this play and you're like, oh, this person, Grace JABBBARI, would rather put a visual forward and pursue this for her own want to manipulate someone into getting back with her. What do you think happened in September? What do you think happened in July?
That's my point. That is my point. If we got to this scene, then if we look at their whole relationship as a play or an act, and I don't mean to downplay anything like that, you have to go back and start thinking about it. If she did this on March 23rd, what did she do in January? What did she do in December? What did she do in in October? He said that they weren't dating. What did she do
anytime someone pointed out something that wasn't absolutely perfect about her? Did it send her spiraling? Because to me, the answer kind of seems like probably yeah.
Yeah. You know, and why do you have, I want to say, y'all know how Katt Williams said it. And why does she have such a anyway, she has such a very close personal thing with death and pruning from the timeline. Because I don't know where Priya was going with the ex-boyfriend who pruned himself from the timeline. But we just see that there are men in her life that have these types of ups and downs and lows and things like that. That
Like they're a
that
match for her. She sees
yeah,
them as a match or like as like something to win.
yeah, that's quite interesting. Like I said, this is just speculation. No one is here saying that we know anything like that, but this is just interesting. So I can imagine how dramatic you were uh in September. I can
Hold
imagine
on.
the drama.
I think I need to add a new layout to StreamYard is StreamYard, guys. Let me add 3 to make sure we can get Danny in here with a full size instead of making her smaller.
Well, I'm not coming on camera, so.
That's fine.
So I'm eating.
I don't know how much you caught of this, but I think even like the last sentence of that story we just looked at is enough. Everyone say hi to Danny. I think everyone in here, if you don't know who Danny is, you're probably new to this channel too, because Danny's mentioned in almost every video.
Oh, thank
But
you.
how much did you get to catch of this play?
I just caught the part where you were talking about the play and the candle, and I didn't catch any of the beginning.
Man, so the play they see on March 24th that she couldn't remember the name of, it was so insignificant. And they had a tense dinner after they see this play. Is the story of Gloria, who's dating she's white, she's a prostitute. She's dating a black man that does not know she's a prostitute. When he finds out, they break up. He breaks up with her. She's distraught over it, starts popping pills, starts drinking, loses it, and then unalives herself. This is what they saw less than 24 hours before she's laying on the bathroom floor. This was Daisy Ball. I think she may have been in some of your videos, maybe with one of Kirby's, and she's been in a bunch of the other live streams when Jonathan Majors is being covered.
Wow.
But she went and looked at this play, found out it was the one they saw that night, and then looked at some of the playwriting for it, for the details of who these characters were and what happened.
I'm gonna be right back.
Crazy.
Okay,
why didn't anybody bring?
Well, Priya tried to ask about, do you remember the name of the play? I don't think there would have been much testimony they could have asked.
I mean, not asked, but you know how you introduce it, kind of the way Priya introduced and was able to get the doctor at Bellevue to say that she was tested 3 times for alcoholism.
And you got to kind of like nudge it till it comes out.
Yeah, keep asking. So you'd be like, oh, so the play that you went to go see, was it about da-da-da-da-da? Because they couldn't have objected to that. You can't object to someone telling you what the play is about. You know what I mean? And then it would have came out, oh, okay. So, I don't know. But at least the jury would have heard how similar the play was to what she did.
It would have given, if there was a juror sitting there with that question of, why would someone go through the lengths of staging something like that? Is that just a random accusation that is a bullshit defense on the part of the defense? Why would maybe they missed the detail about that 1107 text message, right? Knowing the plot of the play would give you that, oh, now I can see how that's possible. I can see that this was all a hoax. And maybe at the end of the day, the jury... The bigger problem is not even Grace JABBBARI doing that on that night. The problem would be that she alleged this pattern of abuse, but it seems like if she's so quick to pull this type of visual stunt to get him to come back to her when he tries to separate, and we know they've separated before, the pattern of manipulative behavior isn't, the ball's in her court there. He leaves, she manipulates him to come back. Like, and that's the problem here.
Crazy.
So yeah, the part of the play where, she's the prostitute, Serenity says, I cackled. So her friend, they initially introduce her as being an international model, but then find out she's a call girl, so.
Right. Wow, that is insane. Okay, so we have to do a whole new episode now, right? Part 2 of the timeline and everything else, because now it's just getting, oh, wow, that is crazy.
This is the wildest, and this is MVP Daisy, and I've asked, so if I get a response that Daisy would, want to come on, not everybody wants to come on and stream or whatever.
Right.
It's like a thing. Like, you gotta like make sure you don't break anything, knock over your technology. Like,
Right.
it's a little bit of a project.
Exactly.
So we'll see if Daisy wants to get on board, because, and she really just laid this out so nicely too. Like, just in order, she looked at the synopsis, pulled the transcript of where she's like, oh, I don't really remember the name of the play, which is like fair enough, but you know, for you to remember other random details. Didn't she remember Jonathan Majors went into professional mode
Yeah,
at
that
this
was
play?
her. Yeah, that was her insinuating that basically like he's like a Jekyll and Hyde. Like, and that's, I mean, and at the end of the day, that's
Or to me, she
everybody.
doesn't like him being around. This is a play that he knew people that were going to be at, like his
Mhm.
theater friends are over there. And she's like, oh, like, I love going places with him, but at the same time, I hate when he interacts with anybody else. Like, I just sit there and seethe in my own skin, having
Right.
to watch him have an existence that's beyond me.
That's beyond me. And that, you
Right.
know, that, and I don't even understand the whole professional mode thing. That's literally like saying, oh, you're supposed to behave at your place of work the way you do at home. And we all are two different people at work versus at home. You don't curse at home, at work, the way you do at home. You know what I mean? You don't
Exactly.
dress at home the way you do at work. You don't drink alcohol at work. You might drink alcohol at home. So for her to say that he's like in professional mode is disingenuous, because it's like, of course he is. He's around his colleagues.
Or in general, he's just in public. He's in a
And he's
public
in
place.
public. Like, what is he supposed to do? Act?
Like,
I
a
mean,
play is not a nightclub. A play is not like in vogue. A
right,
play is a bit more of like um a fancier type of date to
right.
go to.
These are
That's
thespians. You know, there's a way that you have to, you know, behave when you're in certain environments. And that's what I don't understand. You come from a family of lawyers and you don't understand that?
I'm done. Serenity's laughing over here. The chat is like on fire. Like, we've got an on-call girl. We've got all these. And then
This
good
is
points too.
nuts.
So she likes to isolate him from his friends. Yeah. So
Mhm.
Juanita, let's parallel that. You have this claim, but the second he's around anybody and you're not the center of attention, you get annoyed. And I thought she was trying to insinuate that maybe the reason they were still having issues, it was cold and tension when they first get to the restaurant.
Mhm.
She probably knew where Priya was trying to go with this mention of, do you remember what that play was? But she didn't want it to seem like, oh, we were tense at dinner because we just saw a play and we were talking about the contents of that play. And the contents of that play were extremely relatable in a way that's problematic for me.
Mhm.
And it was tense until we had more drinks and someone he knew sent us shots. Someone that they spoke to at the play probably was those two other people that saw them at Karasu, the restaurant
Right.
behind Walter's, and is the ones that sent them the drinks. They were probably just at that same play and said, "Oh, that's them. Let's send them shots."
Ugh,
Um,
this
but
eats
she,
me
she she didn't
alive.
have a problem with his mingling when those people sent shots, right? She didn't care that he had a life beyond her when she got free alcohol out of it.
Right.
But that's the whole thing, y'all.
Hmm.
It was she was embedded to the point where she thought that she was, I don't want to say she thought that she was him, but everything he did and everything it had to be about her. I don't,
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm explaining that right. It's just like, oh, it's our stuff and my house and my this
Yeah.
and that.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it was very embedded. And then that night when you see clearly that uh that is coming to a complete and utter end, you use the final last tactic, uh and you decide that you were going to set up how it was in this play. Because see, if it shout out to Daisy, I'm sorry, but had she not gone back, we would have not, because that just seemed too fantastical. How do you go from here to Lord, she was gonna prostitute herself out to this man. Any-
And it kind of jives too with the way she inserted herself in between Jonathan's relationship with Priya
right,
Sadiani. Because it's that kind of, I mean, we've again, you know, I always relate things to A, maturity, and B, just things that people do in life. That's just how you learn in life. And you know how you always had that person. There's always that one person in school that you can't be anybody's friend but theirs. you know, and anytime anyone else comes around, they get
They're like, oh,
upset.
that's my best friend. That's my best
Or
friend.
they get weird or they get standoffish if you have other friends.
It's
You
like
know?
it's a symbiotic relationship. It's like if you would mention Jonathan, you were gonna have to always mention Grace.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Or
Or
she has
if you
to be
didn't,
part
she
of
was
it.
going to mull over it and then pick an argument with him once they got back home later, like just huffing and puffing, mad for no reason, inventing a
Right.
reason to be mad when the whole reason she's just seething because she warped some weird interaction he had that was completely harmless into being some type of, you did something wrong with me and my feelings are hurt and I need to find a reason to outlet it.
Right.
Because people are really like that.
That's
Yeah,
sad. I feel so bad for him, man. It's just like, oh. And like, how, you know, there's no way to know, you know?
Main character syndrome. J Rock says Grace
Yes,
JABBBARI. That is the term. Main character
Mhm.
syndrome.
Yep. There you go. Perfect.
It's my life. This is the biggest house I've ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
I have a tax bill. I want to drink right now. I don't want to have a discussion about how I'm not supposed to build my life around your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Glastonbury and my friends are coming to New York, but because I have one problem with you, I'm going to say you isolated me and had a problem with my friends. Not my drinking, but with my friends.
But
Like,
he,
main character syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
he was hanging with the friends because you know they had that big limo ride. They were all in the limo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's kind of like I think we see his hand toasting one time, and then he's in the limo, and it looks fine, and then it looks like he's like turned away in the one little clip of it, and she's behind him, like launching at him, almost like she's saying something annoying to him.
Yeah,
That's
just
probably
being
reading too far
irritating.
into it, but because it's just
No,
one
but
little.
I mean, once you kind of get a personality profile of somebody, again, relating to your own life, living long enough, and have been around different types of people enough to know those types of personality quirks, if you have enough evidence, you're usually on spot. You're spot on when you can kind of figure out. You know what I
Or
mean?
even something is like they're in the limo, they already went to dinner, and he could have been like, hey, just make sure you're drinking some water too, along with we're about to go out and do more drinking. And, you know, when you're in a limo, everyone's screaming. You probably think you have a moment to be the person you're sitting next to. You think what you say in their ear is private because the music's so loud. They're not going to hear, the rest of the car's not going to hear it. So he could have just made a mention like, hey, want some water? Make sure you're drinking some water. You should probably drink some water because I know how this goes otherwise. And she could have been like, come on, what do you mean? What do you mean I should drink water? And it just looked like she was like leaning in to say something in his ear in this like split second clip.
Yeah.
But that's really, again, pattern of behavior. It seems to me that that's how she always was. So Iron, you're here. Iron, you're a bit of a detective too. So what we were actually talking about before you got here, if you just got in here, was Daisy Ball went and backtracked and looked at this play that they went and saw together on March 24th that Grace JABBBARI didn't remember the name of. It wasn't important to her. The plot of the play is interracial couple dating. The black boyfriend finds out that he was kind of deceived by this white girl. She's a prostitute, but she claims she was just a model. The standards aren't there for him. He breaks it off. She can't get in touch with him. She's trying to get in touch with him. Because she can't find him, she goes through this period of, you know, a bit of empowerment when she's like, oh, I'm just going to dance. I bet he's in some other girl's ear right now and making this into some tragedy, his tragedy. But I'm laughing right now. And then she has a whirlwind. She gets depressed, gets angry, starts drinking, starts doing pills, and then unalives herself. So that's in short. They see this play on March 24th together. And then within 24 hours, she's laying on her own bathroom because Jonathan Majors breaks up with her, texting someone at 11:07 and apparently not actually unconscious with the staged sleeping pills and sentimental candle and sentimental hoodie. So that's what we're talking about, Iron. It's a lot. It's worth a replay. We started talking about this probably about an hour and 20 minutes into the actual stream. So we've been talking about this for just over an hour. So if you do replay and you don't care about the motion to set aside the verdict stuff, about an hour and 20 minutes into this video is where we start talking about this play that Daisy unraveled. And then, yeah, Carmen says, I really hate women like this.
We all do. Well, those of us who aren't Me Too maniacs.
Right? Because, like, that's the thing. Like, you know, like, some people will be like, people mark their own territory, right? You think, like, a woman that's like that should also hate another woman that's like that, right? Because it still, just because you are something doesn't mean you don't like when someone else is that way.
Right.
But
And
there
that's
seems to
you.
be an affinity between these people. This type of person,
Mhm.
there's an affinity for them to stick together.
Right.
Like, they don't hate
Exactly.
each other more than they want to join in their unified battle towards whatever they have a gripe with.
Oh my goodness gracious.
There is a difference between women empowerment and toxicity. There's a big, totally difference in that. And I really would like for people. I may do a stream on that just to talk about the difference and how you can figure it out. Because once you start delving into the point where you don't make sense, but you've got a whole big mass of folks not making sense with you, you start, it does get confusing because you're like, wait a minute. Well, we all think like that because they take that little thing. So, just something very simple as uh, women have the right to have control of their bank accounts, right? That's
Mhm.
that's a great women empowerment thing like that. It jumps to men ain't shit. What the hell?
Right. Like what?
I'm so glad I
Hold
was
on,
done
hold on,
with the
hold on.
drink.
Like pump the brakes. Wait a minute.
From you having autonomy for your bank account, and then men ain't. Okay, wait a minute.
Like that.
Okay. I'm just trying to make some steps because not all men are like that. Now the men you might date are like that, but not all men are like that. Just like not all women are like that. That's why I say all the time, you accept people authentically who they are, not who you think they ought to be. If you
Mm-hmm.
accept people who they are authentically, we would all, men, women, would make better decisions instead of trying
Right.
to make people into who we think they ought to be for our own
Or
selfishness.
even, like, the idea of, I might come your way and be like, hey, in my family, my grandparents, and this isn't me specifically, but there are people out here that my mom has always been the homemaker. My dad's always handled the finances. My grandparents were the same way. So if you come my way and, you know, you tell me it's weird for me to have all of our assets, I'm married, everything's in something that was formed under my husband's name before we were married, and you're telling me that's an issue, there's going to be a learning curve there, right? And
Yes.
some people will react to that and, like, tell you you're oppressed because you just chose that lifestyle for yourself. Choosing to
Right.
be a stay-at-home mom, some people think that that's like a choice of the oppressed that had no choice or agency in making that decision.
No,
And
that's
it's
the
like, how do we
choice of
get there?
people who want good children.
You
If you
empower
have it, take it.
you empower women where they are. There are women that want to be stay-home moms. That's fine. They're not oppressed. They're not or anything like that. There are women that want to be out in the workforce. They're not. There's nothing wrong with that. If you are someone that talks about women empowerment, you empower a woman where she's are. What you empower is
Right.
you don't want her to be mistreated. You don't want her to be any of those different things like that. But empower a woman where she's at. Empower a man where he's at. And like I said, if it doesn't jive with who you are authentically,
Move
Right.
on. Right.
And
Mind
it
your
would be
business.
different if we didn't have in the Jonathan Majors situation, we have Grace Jabari having this debit card. Her flights, her travel are booked by this credit card, debit card, whichever. So there wasn't a situation where you need to come out and stay with me in New York, and this isn't your house. You have no recourse if you want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a situation like that at all. Not
Right.
only was she not constrained, she didn't have to be there. She chose to fly all the way across the continent to be there. And then,
Mm-hmm.
even after the fact, he didn't. An abuser would have called the bank that night and put a stop on that card.
Child. I'd have put it right. As soon as I ran out of that car, I would have called American Express or whoever, T-Mobile and everybody else. She'd have been sitting there looking crazy.
And that's the thing. She painted this story of him having these tendencies or having a certain way that he gets, having a certain way that he acts, isolating her, controlling her. She had no
Mm-hmm.
choice. I think she's flat out lying, but at the very least, she doesn't know him at all. She doesn't even know the man she was dating. But then,
She
let
didn't even know
alone,
he had a
he wants
master's
one
degree.
standard. Hello? And that's why I want to know what that sweatshirt said, if it was sentimental to him. It probably had some, maybe some group he was part of for a theater program.
I wonder, right? Are there no other images of her with that shirt? Nothing face forward, right?
Wasn't that the sweatshirt that he used in that Men's Health video?
I don't know. The green, it was green, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah.
like beigey green, right? I can picture it being kind of like one of those things that looks green
Let
and
me
then
see if
beige.
I can find it.
All right, if I search Jonathan Majors Men's Health, it's all shirtless.
Yeah, basically. Like, I don't need that kind of energy right now. So I'm just gonna Google the sweatshirt. Now there is a picture of her. Okay, I think I can see it. Hold on. There's a picture of her laying in the closet. And you can see it. It says something estate. It's
Okay,
just
wait.
a white. Okay, there's just a white like embroidery on the heart side of her chest. It's army green.
Could it be something from his military upbringing? I mean, it wouldn't have been from childhood if it was big enough. But
no, it's something estate though. It says something estate, and then it looks like Sesame Street. Wait a minute. Hold on. You know the Sesame Street logo that looks like the street sign?
Yeah.
Let me see. What the heck does it say? It's so, and I'm so close to seeing it. I hate that I can't see it because it's like blurry. Like, hold on. Something estate. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's Sesame Street. I'm telling you, I think it's
You can't see it. You probably
what did you say?
No, but I trust what you're saying. I don't know how
he
to.
has it on. Okay, wait a minute.
That's not it.
Hold on.
It could be. It's that color. That's the color. Is there a logo on the heart side?
Does it have a hood though? It does. Wasn't hers a crew neck?
Oh yeah, no, you good grief, Kat. You got some detail about you, boy. I don't know. Let me go look now.
This is a hoodie. This is a hoodie.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I think she was in a crew neck.
Yeah, she's like, hold on. What did I type? I put Grace Jabbari. What did I say? Grace Jabbari. I could probably share my screen if I can pull it up. Hold on.
And then hold on, let me
pull it up on my actual iMac, and then I will share.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready, because if we need to give it a bigger view, I can zoom it in. And then I want to say hi to Dr. Keisha. She's tuning in, I think on Twitter. She's watching on X somewhere, maybe, or maybe on one of your YouTubes. But shout out to you. You're doing commentary on your YouTube channel too, so if you guys want to go over there and check out her content, she's done some discussion on Jonathan Majors as well.
Hey, Dr. Keisha.
And then he was trying to protect her the whole night. And we're like detective, we're like Dora the Explorer. Well, that's not. She's not really a detective.
She's the Dora the Explorer.
She has 3 tasks. She has 3 tasks per episode, and getting through them.
More like the Scooby-Doo people. Oh, damn.
Scrappy-Doo was Grace Jabbari.
Yeah, she's Scrappy-Doo. I'm trying to find the picture that will let me open it, because this one's trying to open a video. I don't want to open a video. Ay, Dios mío. Hold on.
Okay, there is one detail. So Gaffey intends to make a ruling on the defense motion to set aside the verdict on April 1st. So April Fools, yay. Wonderful.
Right. I'm like, fun times. I might have to go to court 5 days after my birthday.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We're both Aries.
Yeah,
March babies.
You know, we about this life. All right, I'm trying to figure out how I can get this to open without. I might have to copy and paste the picture into something else, because for right now, you know what? I'll just share all the Google results and try to zoom in. That's the best I can do, because it seems like every image I'm coming across is linked to a video. So when I try to open it, it's
doing its thing.
Yeah, it's trying to play a video. It's trying to play the actual
video.
Yeah, the body cam footage. And this is blurry as hell. Why was it clearer on my phone?
Does it be like that?
Oh, this is such a pain. Hold on.
Okay, so Tracker says Sesame Place was a big deal in the Dallas area as a kid.
Maybe.
Oh, Sesame Place, is that the park that you're talking about? The amusement park?
That's what I'm saying. I know that Sesame Street logo, because I just swore up and down they did that in Harlem. So when I was a kid, I just knew that Sesame Place was filmed in Harlem, even though it wasn't. But you know, I wanted to feel special as a kid. So.
Now, Sesame Place is a theme park in
Pennsylvania, but it's in Pennsylvania. But that's what I'm saying. I think that logo is Sesame Place, but it says something estate on the top. I can see it on my phone. I don't know why I can't see it in the online.
Maybe it was the place he took his daughter.
Possibly. Possibly. Yeah, because I can see it. It's clear as shoot. Let me try.
And I think everything's fair game to say that he thinks it's sentimental because he has like his mug that he thinks is sentimental and
yeah, he's very you know, what's the word?
Iconified with like things embody a meaning.
Yes,
okay, wait. So
symbolism and things like that. So
I see your share. Let me know when you want me to pull it up.
You can. I'm just trying to find a clearer picture, but I can't. I don't even know what I Googled before that gave me the one where I was able to see a state something. But you can share it, and I'll see if I can
move to full screen.
Let me see if I can get it. Yes, see, every time I click, it tries to open a video, and I don't want to do that. Let me see. Open.
I mean, I wonder if we can just get one and do like the reverse image search if we have one of like a good view of.
Yeah, I swear, I think this is I think that's the Sesame. It says Sesame Street. I'm telling you. I really feel like. What do you call that thing?
Well, that would explain. I think that someplace that he went with his daughter is a great reason why he would say that was sentimental. Yeah, go ahead. KATT. Oh my God, Michael Parker.
There you go.
Who's that too? Is that going to Pam? Did you want to speak, Pam?
Good grief, Michael Parker. Like,
or is that Danny? I can't see who it's going to, but whoever wants the floor.
Oh, I don't know. I can't tell because I have it streamed.
Your flowers, long overdue. You ladies are doing a great job. Keep up the good fight. Your efforts are felt and seen more than you realize. Thank you so much.
You're so kind, Michael. But yeah, I don't know who it's going. I don't know who is it going. I don't know, Michael. But that was really nice to whoever it's going to. I don't know. It doesn't alert. It doesn't alert. But let me see if I can.
Yeah, so to explain on StreamYard, it just puts when someone's tuned into a link that is being watched. So it's my StreamYard that's hosting it. But for all of us here, Danny, me, and Pam, we're just seeing that there's a link there that it could be coming from pretty much either of theirs. So, Michael, we can't see who it's coming from. But I'm going to say Pam and Danny, you both deserve your flowers. I love and appreciate you guys very much. Yeah. Happy in general to have met you guys through all this is a silver lining, but in general, just the insight specific to this case, you guys have always been on point. Okay, so Danny, that's Michael Parker says that's for Danny. So that's where the link is coming from is your stream.
You're so sweet.
And then everyone's showing love. So Dr. Keisha's showing Michael some love. We've got some love for Michael. Everyone shout out Michael Parker in the chat, no matter what chat you're a part of. And then shout out. So Juanita says, we are totally rabbit hole detectives out here. Heck yeah.
I know.
That should be
we should get like a, you know how they have like the Catfish TV show? We should have a TV show dissecting crazy ex-girlfriends.
Rabbit hole.
I used to love that moment in time where like the millennium, like 2000s reality dating shows, there's like the X Factor and Blind Date, and it was like those shows where like your exes would be in the earpiece of the person you were on a blind date with, they would be telling you stuff about you while you're on a blind date with them.
Right.
A period of time in reality TV.
The fake a suicide type, am I right?
Yeah, they're just pointing it out. They're like, one time he lit a candle and opened a suitcase and left it sitting there, just to let you know. But Eliza, Michael, you were getting all the love in the chat. Eliza's showing love. Ghost is showing love. Andre's showing love. Everyone's yelling. Black Girl Magic says Michael Parker with a bunch of exclamation marks. So everyone is shouting out Michael Parker. So thank you always, because Danny, you went out there. You not just the cost and the headache of having to fly, but you spent the days sitting there in that courtroom, which I don't envy you for having to sit on a nice. Was it like a wooden bench in the courtroom? That's like an old church. Yeah.
on porch benches, and having to handwrite everything. I won't forget this, Jonathan. I
Just
won't soon forget
crazy.
this because they would not. I mean, during the deliberations, they weren't as strict. That's why I was able to kind of post things as it happened. But during the trial, yeah, couldn't take my phone out, couldn't do anything. And so I had to handwrite everything. And but I mean, it was interesting. So it wasn't like I was bored, but it just was like, damn, if I could type this would go so much smoother.
Okay, wait. We do have, and I've got another comment I want to read, but just because Jokes with Junior is saying, or maybe it's Jokes with JR. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong, but Flamingo Estate. Could it say Flamingo Estate?
It could. Let me see if on my phone, because for some
Yeah,
reason,
you've got
I
the
don't
better
know.
eyes there. So let's look into Detective JR here. Detective Junior here is now the detective with the deets. We're passing the torch.
Look, hey,
And
I
then
want to know what it says too. Oh wait,
Juanita
I think
also
it is.
Flamingo
As soon as I typed
Estates.
in Flamingo Estate, Sesame Street auto-populated.
Wait, is that a Sesame Street thing?
I don't know. Apparently it is, because as soon as I typed in Flamingo Estate, it automatically filled in Sesame
Wait a
Street.
minute. Is this? Hold on, let me see. Oh my god, is this the hoodie? I have the crew neck. You're right. You're so good, Jokes with JR. Everyone shout out. We're going to just say JR. You can put it in all caps. I don't know if it's JR Jr., but holy moly, this is it.
Yes. Yes, we got it. Jokes with okay, let me see if I can find it now. So, I knew it was Sesame Street.
It's a clothing collab from Flamingo Estate and Sesame Street. So they did a clothing collaboration. But that's it right there.
Some kind of endorsement or something. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely noticed the logo. I just couldn't figure out what the.
Oh my god, let me close all my tabs. I have like 30 searches for Jonathan Majors crew neck sweatshirt.
Look, we're almost as crazy as Grace, right? I want to know.
Yeah, so like, what is the sentimental value here, and why? I want to know why possibly she decided to wear it. Because that's why it's interesting. It's not just like you grab a random, again, if I was pissed off at someone and they just injured me, I'm not putting on any article of clothing. I don't care if I normally sleep in his baggy clothes. Exactly. So that means you plan on taking it with you and you resolve to get over this person. It doesn't add up. Does not add up.
Tracker, I guess that's her husband.
Wait, hold on, wait. I gotta scroll down. KATT, my husband found it first. Okay. So, Flamingo Estate, Sesame Street.
Yeah.
But how long ago was this collaboration?
Good question.
And then Flamingo.
Let me see if I can.
Collab. We're like over here becoming like
I know
streetwear fashionistas. Okay, so January 27th, 2023 is coming up as the first Hype Bay link. Oh my god, the back of the hoodie says "Have a rotten day."
Yes, it has Oscar the Grouch on the back.
I didn't pay attention to that part of the quote, "Have the rotten day."
Oh,
let's see.
Oh, she was sending a message to that.
Very weird. This chick is nuts, man. I'm getting annoyed. Like, like, how are you that crazy? Like, what brand of crazy is that?
Do they still sell these? Can we get one? Danny, if you go back to the courtroom and you wear the green.
Yeah, I will be expeditiously escorted out.
But yeah, so it's definitely Flamingo Estate. This is the sweatshirt. The back of it, is there a related image that shows the back of it? Let me switch over here.
Oh, you can control it? Oh, good. Because I was like, how do you?
Oh, no, over on Google. Do you have the back of it?
Let me get it. Hold on. There's a bag here. Yeah.
Where did it just come from? The trash can. Okay, here it is. This is the back of it.
You got it? Okay.
So there's the "Have a rotten day."
Oh, he was sending a message.
Right? So weird. Oh my god. Like, I'm literally like getting squeamish because this is just, it's making me itch. This
Hold
is
on.
like
So stream sponsor
so.
Michael Parker, because now he's the stream sponsor here. And he's adding. I'm sure that Jonathan Majors is very appreciative of all the support that he's been receiving. And that's true,
Oh yeah.
right, guys? If we're out here talking for him, he does not need to make these statements, and then people can't make a fuss about him making statements because he doesn't have to
Right.
make them, because we can all point out, hey, there's some lies in this testimony from his accuser. He doesn't need to be the one to say it if we're out there saying it enough.
Exactly.
But this type of injustice could happen to any of us, and that's absolutely true, despite color, race, or gender. 100,000, a million %.
Oh yeah. Because like I said, this is an everyday occurrence. This is like everyday stuff. This is not, something that can't happen right this minute to somebody, especially if you're a New Yorker sitting on the subway. Somebody could snatch your phone, somebody could snatch your purse, you go after them to get it, and they just happen to get hurt in the process, and now you're right in the same position.
And now you're getting sued.
So it's crazy how so many people are like chomping at the bit and like wanting to make this more than exactly what it is. As if this can't be them.
What is he yelling? Is it a Revelations or is it just? I'm curious. I'm sorry, Danny. I just saw that and just got.
Oh, that's so funny.
You know me. I get on my soapbox. There's nothing I haven't said before. I just was trying to read the comments and talk and.
Laying toes pointed with this nice Sesame Street sweatshirt on.
Hilarious.
Like I said, I don't think she initially started in that position. I think that she was very relaxed, and dare I say, laying on her back. If this was probably 91, 92, and this was happening, she'd be laying on her back with her knees up, twirling the cord of the phone, talking to her friend Holly.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I think she was very, very relaxed. She went in, she took a shower, she put his shirt on because, he had not been home. She was waiting for him to come home. And I don't know. Well, I think she staged it. That's just me.
Well, she did. She did. The talent agent testified that he was on the phone at 10:45, banging on the bedroom door 70 to 80 times. She was awake because she was texting all the way up until 11:07. That is exactly what, 22 minutes that she heard him banging on the door.
If you're on the phone with Elon the whole time, Elon Rispoli the whole time, and Grace JABBBARI also texts her friend, I heard him trip over a suitcase, that means while Elon Rispoli is still on the phone, Grace JABBBARI also claimed or said to someone else, because she doesn't want to testify that she was not unconscious, but there's a text message she sent at 11:07 saying, I heard him, he's telling me tripped over a suitcase.
I think the 11:07 text was the one where she said, I'm up or I'm awake and I'm going to pack. But she did.
That's even worse.
But remember, he started knocking at 10:45. So 10:45, between 10:45 and 11:07, she probably said what you're saying about him tripping over the suitcase, because they never really did the timestamp.
Yeah, now she probably ran and locked the bedroom door right as she heard him come down into that first level of the floor.
To hear him fall over the suitcase, she had to be at the top of the stairs, and she heard it, and then she ran into the room and she locked the door.
Lock that door.
Because she had from her where she was. Because I'm just thinking about how many times we turn going up that staircase. That's like 2 or 3 floors.
And
so
it was thick walls. That's a high-rise building. That's not a thin-walled structure. Oh, yeah. There has to be noise. It has to be.
Oh yeah, because look at what they're paying. The housing projects you can't even hear through the walls. So imagine what with that kind of price tag, you better not be able to hear through the walls.
Exactly.
She was $1 million apartment.
She actually heard him come in, and then she heard him trip, and then she ran into the.
She heard him banging on that door 70 to 80 times until he got the handyman.
And then I wonder too. Did she think this was like, when you're kids, you're playing around with a sibling, and you have one of them bedroom doorknobs that locks, but you can poke like a lollipop stick in it, and it pops back open. Was she just thinking that he'd be able to get up in there just easily like that? Like she probably never had to think about it, right?
It was
But
she just freestyled that whole thing, and she I guess she just took. I mean, but you know what? Well played, Grace. I'll give her that because she knew exactly who she was dealing with and the type of person that he is.
I beg to differ with you. She did not freestyle that whole thing. She had a whole play. She put
No,
that
I
whole
mean I meant like she
the door
freestyled
locking
it.
part, like she didn't know that that door would be so hard to open. She probably thought he could pull it hard enough, and you know some locks don't work that well. She's not used to living in houses like this. She's used to living at flats with her party friends.
If it was at a normal house like my house, your house, he probably could have just broke the door down.
Exactly.
Like
yeah, I've got a door that if you just turn it hard enough and kind of like lift the door up out of the frame, it opens.
Like the typical Home Depot, Lowe's $200 6-panel doors.
Just like the flat she used to live in rent free before she started dating him.
Right. I'm sure he could have easily had muscled his way through a normal door, but I'm guessing that they don't have Home Depot 6-panel $200 doors and $2 million penthouses.
So then I think that's actually a really great point because she probably didn't imagine he was going to get some handyman to get the door unlocked. He probably thought he was just like, oh, I'm done with this. If you're going to keep the door locked, I'm just leaving, and freaked out that he's leaving. So.
Oh, she's such a weirdo. So gross. Ugh. We start calling her Gross JABBBARI.
That's good. Actually, I don't think I've heard that yet. It's always disgrace JABBARI or Grace Jabroni. Carbro did ask.
Gross Jabroni. Yeah,
Gross Jabroni. So Carbro, since you missed the beginning of this, what could be the reasons for the delay? So there was more than one motion filed, but one of them was a motion to set aside the verdict, which is something that is a post-conviction remedy that would have to happen before sentencing. It's a smaller constraint of an area to raise an argument that this verdict wasn't right. Here's why. Because on the way it's laid out, the defense has to present, they bear the burden, they have to present proof to back up the grounds for this motion, and then the prosecution has to have a chance to respond to it. So Judge Gaffey's giving this time frame where they filed this motion, the state has until next month to respond, and then the judge has until April 1st to read the response and make a decision. So he's going to decide by April 1st, and then he's tentatively set the next sentencing hearing for April 8th. So we'll see. There probably, in my opinion, will be another delay because there's still other motions besides that one.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Dios mío.
Pressed or sealed. What is it?
Yeah, the motion to keep the Molyneux evidence sealed. Although I don't know if that would like have any bearing on delaying. If they don't need to hear arguments about that and the judges will just make a decision, that might not delay. But I do believe they said other motions were filed this morning. One outlet said this motion to set aside the verdict was actually filed yesterday. So it seems like there's even more motions than the one to keep the Molyneux evidence sealed and then this one to set aside the verdict. But who knows what they're reporting, right, guys? Like, we're only working with what we get, and what we're reporting now based on what we're seeing could be reported differently. So,
right.
You know.
And it's just crazy to me that in all these months, not even just today, that they don't have any of this stuff on that website. I don't understand. I don't understand why it's not there. Like, there's literally a tab that says motions and it's empty.
They're gonna use the guise of it being a special victims case to keep certain things under seal.
That's true. But I mean, the stuff that does not identify her in any way, like what?
Or just redact anything that mentions specific evidence that is not admissible currently, that's still under seal. Obviously, the motions that we have seen in this case, the motion to dismiss, the copy of the email to the state that Priya Chaudhry sent back in August, there were appendices in each of those documents, but that wasn't part of what was released publicly. We didn't get to see the appendices to see the evidence that was being footnoted or referenced. They could do the same thing with this type of motion, but it's my understanding that there was some gag order put into place around October, and that could be, Priya doesn't want to go and put in these documents that she's filing out into the press herself, but maybe she's hoping it'll become a matter of public record and someone will release it. Again, New York Daily News at least is one outlet looking to have access to the motion or motions that were filed this week. So if they're able to access it, it will become a document that we can all take a look at. which I'm sure will be really fun.
Yeah, right.
I want to know their grounds, and if the ground is either the juror or someone trying to influence a juror inappropriately, or there's new evidence that we don't even know
That would be
about.
awesome.
So
That would be totally awesome. Maybe the black lady, you know, after Christmas, you know, maybe the ghost of Christmas future came to her and was like, you need to let those people know you messed up. And then she
well, did you see the grounds that did you see the it's a very constrained grounds, but did you see the grounds under 33030 that qualify? That could be grounds. They have to argue and make the case for it, but my point is that it has to at least be one of these grounds to even try.
Yeah, and like Kirby said, they should just try all of them. Don't just stick to one because you only
Not with the appeal, this motion to set aside the verdict, which is much more constrained. So here, it's pretty simple, and there's people that tuned in late, but we can do a top-level summary. And then let me share this screen up. So this is not, we looked at the actual statute, but this is just a summary from a New York law firm. But there's 3 grounds that you can, you know, make a reasoned argument to have grounds under this motion to set aside a verdict. So one is a ground appearing in the record that requires a reversal or modification of the judgment. 2, during the trial there occurred, out of the presence of the court, improper conduct by a juror or improper conduct by another person in relation to a juror that may have affected a substantial right of the defendant and that was not known to the defendant prior to the verdict. Or 3, new evidence has been discovered since the trial that could not have been produced by the defendant at the trial, even with due diligence on his part, and that is of such character as to create a probability that such evidence would have been more favorable to the that the verdict would have changed in a way more favorable to the defendant. So those are the 3. That's a summary of the 3 grounds. It's not the exact, but it's pretty close language to that statute. The link to the statute's in the description, you guys. But, you know, Priya could be filing something kind of like for the sake of making a paper trail, right? But if she's following these grounds, I would be interested in knowing if it's something appearing in the record. So maybe something that the judge said in the record that's a problem and requires, you know, modification. But it's going to be Gaffey looking at this motion and weighing on that himself. So point 1 seems like it would be stronger on appeal. Point 2, they'd have to figure out that there was improper conduct by a juror or someone trying to influence a juror, which would be really interesting. And then the 3rd one, new evidence that was not known even after the defense did a good job trying to do due diligence to find it. New evidence that has been discovered since the trial, which is why I speculated earlier is just a maybe. Maybe it's that second iPhone. Maybe there's something on there. Or he had another way of getting access to things that are associated with an iCloud used for that second device. But really, we don't even know what grounds, if it was just one, if it was multiple within this limited... this is a constraint, right? This is not the same as filing an appeal where you can, like Kirby says,
you can
throw
just
it all at him.
at the wall.
Much more constrained, and we don't even know what grounds. If it was just one, maybe it was more than one. But it had to be one of these 3 grounds, and we don't have any more information on what ground it was. So that's why I'm saying if we get to read this motion, we'll get to see what the grounds is. And even if we only get to see what the grounds is, that's a lot more information, right?
Right. Let me see what magic I can work because,
This Insider article, and it doesn't seem like Priya dropped a PDF to them. So.
Yeah, I think Laura Italiano from Insider will still try to look for anything that's released by the press anyway. So if it becomes a matter of public record, I'm sure Business Insider and New York Daily News will publish that document. We can get up on that. We can put it right alongside the back of the Flamingo estate. And shout out to King on X, who had also DM'd while we were looking at that before we figured it out. I got a DM on X, so shout out to King, who pointed out that it was a Flamingo estate collab. Yeah, so King, if you're in here and you use a different name on YouTube, I don't know which one you are on YouTube, but shout out to you for your investigative work. Another detective out here on X.
Yes. That is too funny. This was fun. That is funny. And we're like wilding out about this shirt.
I mean, the whole chat, like Gross Javoni without her panties. Yeah, right. Disgracie. Disgracie's cute. Disgracie's kind of cute.
Yes, Disgracie. Since everybody calls her Gracie like she's a toddler. Disgracie Jabroni.
Hugh says we need a scan tool for crazy.
Yeah, like in Wakanda, pull their lip back and scan it with your QR code scanner on your phone.
You know what I think Grace Jabbari wishes she had? That thing from Men in Black where you can just like mind wipe, you can erase all the memories. Like,
Yes.
oh, how many drinks were you drinking that night? Oh, boop, none at all. Like,
Right,
no one
none
saw
at
me
all.
drink anything.
What are you talking about?
And then let's see. Disgracey's a popular suggestion in the chat.
Yeah.
Danny, let me pull up your YouTube channel so I can drop a link, and I'm going to redrop Pam's as well.
Okay.
Hold on, your handles does this and that on.
Yeah,
Danny
Danny does this and that. Yeah, because I'm all over the place. Danny does
No, I like that because if I do Danny Does Law, my drop down always points me over to X or Facebook for you. So
yeah, because those two are Danny Does Law, but the YouTube, because I don't know, what else I might do with it. So
it's like this and that, encompass it all.
A little bit of everything, since you guys lured me into the YouTube trap.
Well, luckily my stuff has mostly been legal, but I'm like, dang, I didn't really want to talk about Courtney Clenny, and then hours in talking about Courtney Clenny threatening to burn someone's house down because they won't kiss her back. Like, I'm like, oh, right. I'm here now.
I'm gonna do a video, not necessarily breaking down her legal thing, but how this case kind of blew up on social media. That's the angle that I'm going to take. I've got a video coming.
Hold on, just to clarify, for the Clenny case.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because it's very polarized on certain social media sites that you go on.
Yeah, I haven't followed it, and I guess I need to, because that's like and she's here in Florida, so that's the one here in Florida, right? Oh,
yeah, Danny, there was an hour-long motion hearing last week where it was very efficient, the courtroom. A lot of stuff was covered in that motion hearing. I think Court TV has the full stream of no commentary. I did a video on it, but I'm like chopping it. I'm fast forwarding it, but I'm also commenting, so it's not any shorter than just watching it. You get to hear me blab if you want.
Okay,
but
send me. I just DM me the link.
Yeah, they went through a lot. I mean, there's some rumors coming out from the defense allegation. I thought maybe it was credible that the prosecution wanted to put a gag order. And we're super sunshiny here in Florida, so to hear with a case that a gag order, it should be pretty serious for Florida to implement any type of protective order or gag order across the board. But that was made up.
That comes from when I was talking about that social media angle. Because when that case first came out, I remember the family wanted people to rally around that, but this young man had some texts and tweets that he had done that was very disparaging to the Black American community.
So he was saying I want a white girl or whatever, and that type of language.
Oh, yeah.
And he's not ADOS or foundational Black American, right? So there's that layer added into the mix.
Yeah, because right, exactly, because that's a thing too that a lot of because part of my family is Caribbean as well, and it's the same kind of thing where for those who don't know, foundational Black Americans are basically Black Americans generationally that have been here in the United States and were enslaved at some point here in the United States, versus immigrants from the Caribbean, Africa, wherever, typically don't share the same sentiment toward American whites in general, because they don't get the same, they did not experience historically the same type of human rights violations that American Black people have. And so there's a lot.
And I think that there's a big financial aspect to that too, with the discussion of reparations. But if your family is a foundational Black American, you're lacking. You've been restricted from generational wealth because of no one in your ancestral line was able to own property, and then when you could, the house recoups it through like a Medicaid lien after your mom who fought to get that house dies, right? So generational wealth is a problem that is disproportionately faced by foundational Black Americans. But you have a lot of highly wealthy families that, people that are first flying over to the United States, they're coming here for college on scholarships. if there's some reparations bill that's passed or fought for, and it's a broad stroke, there's no means testing to restrict it to people who are actually facing barriers to success because of generational wealth being deprived. There's a like real theoretical and financial side of all of that as well.
Oh yeah.
So
above
an extra layer of Christian Obumseli, there's some animosity there because he didn't just date a white girl, he dated a white girl who was making millions. So, which in any case doesn't justify someone getting stabbed.
No.
Right, not at all.
At all.
Right. You didn't
At the end of the day,
die for being a coon. But you know, there's the diaspora of Black people. There's a lot of division. Like I remember growing up, you know, oh, you getting called a Yankee, you getting called, you know, I had a Jamaican, because my family's of Trinidadian, my dad's side. And I had a Jamaican lady tell me to my face, because I consider myself American. I was born here. Both my parents were raised in the United States. It's grandparents that, you know what I mean? And I had a Jamaican lady tell me to my face that she thought that Jamaican Black people were better than American Black people because they got freed from slavery earlier. Literally, that's the only reason.
Just the timeline bullet point was the reason specifically.
Was our reasoning, and
not we have a similar experience, just us first.
Yeah, it's not just her though, but that was what she said. And this was the lady I went to church with, and she looked me dead, and I said, "Really?" And then, you know, of course, in my mind, I thought something slick. I'm like, but then that's thanks to us American Black people staying in slavery a few hundred years longer, you have somewhere to come and take advantage of our hard work. So I'm a little confused. Oh, it's a mess. It's just a big mess, and it still goes on to this day.
That's the angle that I want to hit. That's the angle I want to hit.
Go ahead, Pam.
No, I was just saying what you just said. That's the angle that I want to hit, because when it came to advocating for this young man, there was a lot of pushback from Black Americans because of the fact that the tweets that he said, not only about Black women, but also just Black community. Yet your family came over here on the backs and the burdens and the deaths and the
FBAs, right?
Exactly. And then you turn around and you say this, and then something happens to you, and then now everybody wants the labor of Black Americans to rally around. And that's that angle that I wanted to go on, and why this case, because everybody is like, oh, well, you know, people are not paying attention to this case. People are paying attention to the case, but people are stepping back because we also understand and we know that it's hard to turn around and rally for someone who if they were still living, they wouldn't rally for you.
Right. And have said deplorable things. Again, nobody deserves to die. So if we're just here just on the strength of you know, defending the fact that, yeah, he was a coon, he said some really stupid things, but he shouldn't have died for it. I mean, I'm with that.
Well, at the end of the day, the Miami-Dade Police Department, like the ones that don't grab this laptop as evidence and all that stuff, they have no, I mean, maybe they saw his last name at the time and one of them made some connection and said, I'm going to do a shoddy job. But there were some issues from the initial police investigation, let alone the prosecution has to step in and write their affidavit to get their warrant 4 months later. But typically I wouldn't expect that the conversation, the division that we're talking about, I don't think that was on the minds back in April.
Right.
So how do we explain? I think we can always advocate for, hey, you know, they're approaching this murder scene and somehow didn't really find that this witness that said she acted in self-defense.
And
I don't think that decision had to do with this division specifically, even though we could talk about it retroactively.
Do you see for my people in the diaspora, that is the bias, because they didn't do their due diligence like they should do due diligence for everybody, regardless of who you are. You're thinking that you've come over here and your colonial mindset versus someone who has been enslaved is so much higher and so much different. But baby, they just saw you look at how they worked out this case, because there was no reason why that laptop should have been in the possession of all these other people. There should have been she should not have been able to go to Hawaii and move out of this places because you see that there was an investigation. That's the biases, and this is what we're talking about. But when we say it as foundational Black Americans, we are being entitled, and we're being this, being that.
Yeah.
We're just
And
explaining.
how come you've been here for X number of years and you don't have this and you don't have that, and looking down on American Black people because they didn't own the house, they didn't own the shops, they don't have their own business, and things like that.
You didn't have the Klan come and burning your stuff down because you bought a new car.
Exactly.
Bought land.
Exactly.
People you weren't in the property office where people will come in and literally come in and pay money, and then before you know it, you don't even own the land. You don't even know you don't own the land. And then when you go to fight to own
or
the land,
they'll find a way to take it back. They'll find a way to put a lien on that bad boy and take it back when you die. If you don't write if you don't have the financial priviness to have a trust. And what is that type of planning? That's someone in your family's a lawyer. That's something that there's a generational gap between the amount of people in different demographics have someone, or know they should even have financial awareness to approach establishing a trust and putting property into it, or avoiding a 5-year look back period for Medicaid and things like that.
It's tax season. I'm sure a lot of people got their refunds. Put a little $500-$600 to the side. And because if you go to a lawyer, it's going to be a couple of thousand, unless you have a legal plan, because I will tip you off if you sign up. This is a little ghetto, so I'm gonna give you the disclaimer. If you sign up for what is it called, Legal Shield, I think it's like $20 a month.
Yeah, watch out for them do-it-yourself documents online, guys. If you need legal help,
don't do it yourself. Go to Legal Shield, pay the $20 a month for a few months just to get it done. And she said $12.31. Okay, so $12.31. Put another $15 to it and sign up for Legal Shield. They have participating barred attorneys in their network that will do your entire estate plan for free. When I say free, it's because it's covered under the plan. Then you don't have to pay the $2,000. But make sure you get a trust, like KATT said. If you have any real estate, your primary residence should go in that trust. So they would have to redo the deed, or however you want to call it, wherever you live, to make sure that your house is in that trust.
Or if you guys are younger, talk to your family members, remove that taboo, right? Because so many people, your parents pass away and you have no idea where they hid their will. Aretha Franklin, there was a whole dispute, a whole court case because her will was stuffed in a couch cushion, or they found a will stuffed in a couch cushion and didn't believe it was really hers. It's not enough.
It's not enough.
It can change. And if you aren't actively having these conversations, if your parents are avoiding the conversation, when you inherit the problems and have to go into a probate case, that's an expensive nightmare to have to litigate. And you may never get the result, even if you knew that was your parents' wish. If you don't have that locked and loaded, it's not going to be enough.
It's not enough. I'm sitting here almost 3 years in. My dad died. And still. And then by the time, you finish, the legal fees have eaten up whatever else, you know what I mean? Whatever's left.
It eats up the estate.
I'm glad I got reimbursed my $16,000 for the funeral and everything that I paid for. But whatever's left, it's probably going to be next to nothing by the time
it all went to, creditors and attorney fees, billable hours.
Right, because the creditors, I want to tell you, and I'm just telling you guys this since we're on the topic, because again, we try to educate people. Off the rip, $35,000 of his estate went to medical bills. Off the rip.
Was it medical bills as a creditor to a facility, or
medical bills
Medicaid
that he incurred from dying from what he died?
So an actual bill.
35 grand went to the hospital in DeKalb County, Georgia. Off rip. Then you got the credit. He didn't have a whole lot of credit, so it probably was about $6,000-$7,000 in creditor debt. And then, the lawyer's fees. And then, and now what's left, we had to pay a bond for them to front the money that was being held in escrow. Paying that every month. And it's like I said, it'll be 3 years come November that he passed away. And we're still going through this. Um,
And by the way, guys, a
Medicaid,
trust can even remove obstacles or even like directives if
mhm.
you're still,
A
certain
trust
aspects of it.
prevents debt. So like when you die, if you have a trust and you have your proper assets in that trust, you can owe American Express $1 million and they won't get a dime. They won't get a dime. And I told my family, if I die right now, turn off all those auto pays, turn in the cars, do not pay anybody. You wait till that life insurance cashes in and go buy a new car. Don't pay anybody if I'm the primary on that debt. When I die, so will these debts. I show them my
Even just
huh?
I'll say even like the estate plan beyond protecting the financials, just naming the person who's in charge to be able to come in and start making decisions right away.
Right,
If you don't have an
right.
estate plan in place that says that, well, now you have to go and litigate to even get
Mhm.
letters of testamentary to start being named as the executor of
Yeah,
the will, or if it's intestate where there is no will, now you have to be appointed an administrator of the
and
estate
that's
where there's
me,
no will in
right.
place, and you have to go. That could take months to even
That took
say
about
you're
6 months
the
just to
decision
get
maker.
me right. Took 6 months because I'm the oldest one. Took 6 months just to get me to be the administrator.
And you can't really do anything at that point. You can't call
Yep.
anyone up and be like, "Hey, I need to shut off this utility bill that's still ongoing." Well,
Mhm.
this person passed away. Well, can you send us a death certificate? Well, you can't really go and obtain that necessarily at all times.
Well, the good thing is for me, and that's another thing you should probably know, if you're one of the children that are the more responsible one, and let's say you're the one at your parents' bedside, or you're the one that the hospital people are calling to get permission to do things for that person, make sure that you're the person that's put on the death certificate, because that helped me out a lot. Because my dad wasn't married, he didn't
It
have.
cleared that avenue for you to start.
Yeah, so as soon as he flatlined, they put me on the death certificate. And so I was able to go to Wells Fargo and close his bank account and get the money out. I was able to, do certain things that didn't require an attorney just because my name was on the death certificate and he didn't have a wife, or anybody else that, could interfere. Um,
Yeah, and all that
so
stuff is
very
crazy. So
important.
Danny's speaking, the death actually took place in Georgia, in DeKalb County. So this isn't always statewide. It could be down to the county. There could be differences. So
Mhm.
some of the things that Danny's saying, like in Florida, there's different homesteads for a
Right.
surviving spouse, where if you're a kid and there's a blended family, and this is a couple states are like this, if the new wife is still married, they get the house. It doesn't
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
because you're the son or the daughter of the
It
father that
doesn't.
passed
Right.
away, it will go to the wife unless it's willed otherwise and structured
Right.
otherwise, estate planned otherwise. So all of these things are important. A lot of people, and you can't change it after the fact, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
so,
Because you're gone.
so it's just something like it's a good thing to have that kind of conversation. I heard someone say once that every year around the holidays they have this conversation, not because, oh, the holiday season, let's talk about doom and gloom, but it's just when families
Let's
get
ruin
together
it,
once
right?
a year, right? You know that it's annual, it's once a year. It's good to think,
Right.
anything major happened this year? Did I move? Did someone get married? Do
Mhm.
I need to update a trust? Do I need to update a trustee? Do I need to fund a
Mhm.
trust? Because you can't just set up a trust. You have to actually fund it and put all of your assets into the trust, which is the
Into the
process of
trust.
itself. So many
Yeah.
people make that mistake, think they have a trust, and then their attorney didn't tell them they have to fund it. And it's just like,
Yes.
well, not
So, and
there
that's
anymore.
another tip. When you do that legal shield thing that I'm telling you to do and then cancel once you get your stuff done, you have to go to your bank and, like she said, fund the trust. So now they have to turn not when we say fund it, we don't mean you have to have 100 grand to put money into it.
It's
It
saying
means that
it's
whatever
tying the
account.
assets to it.
Right. Whatever accounts you have, checking, savings, IRAs, whatever, you have to put it under the trust. So whatever's in it, if it's $5, then it's $5. But I mean, you just have to
It's like
make sure.
moving documents to a folder. Like you've got to put it in
Right.
there.
Right. Right. So everything. So if for whatever, if you have a windfall and it goes into those accounts, the accounts are already set up under the trust that they're protected. And if you open any other accounts, make sure you add them to the trust, because if not, they're subject to probate. You're basically trying to keep everything out of probate. That's your goal. It
You
doesn't
do not
matter.
want to go to probate.
You do not. I'm talking almost 3 years in. almost 3
You
years.
do not want to go to probate. And if someone else dies that's part of the line of succession or was a decision maker while that
And it
probate's
starts
still open, now
all
you
over.
have double probate. You have 2 probates going on.
It's
Wow.
crazy.
And Tracker also mentions power of attorney is important, and it's definitely important, but for, you know, everyone else reading this, power of attorney is while you're living. Power of attorney is something that you give power to. Like, you give someone power of attorney over your XYZ decisions. The second you die, they no longer have that power of attorney. So you also still need to have, if you're thinking like, oh, okay, a medical directive or, oh, power of attorney, I have those things. That doesn't mean you don't need an estate plan. An estate plan can involve some of those things, but it won't solve things like what happens to my house and bills and major decisions after I pass away. Power of attorney is shut off when you're dead.
Right.
Because you no longer have authority. It's gone. There's no one to have authority for you, power of attorney for you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But these are all, there's so much stuff out there on this topic, guys. I hope it just gets you thinking a little bit because it's so important.
In the chat if you want to look into the Legal Shield thing, I'm telling you, while you got your little
Do you want to also on X? I know you have to leave at 7, but if you make an X post, I think everyone, because we're across 3 different channels right now.
Oh, right.
So actually, hold on. Can I? So yeah, it's not letting me copy. Put it in the private chat, and then I can at least paste it to whatever. Yeah. And guys, I don't know. I've never used Legal Shield. I'm big on like boutique attorneys,
I use one
but that's not always feasible.
Well, no, it sends you to attorneys. Legal Shield is not the attorney. Legal Shield is the network, and then there's private attorneys that participate.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's kind of like a network,
so
a network service rather than.
So like my lawyer, I don't use Legal Shield. I use MetLife Legal. So MetLife Legal, my lawyer, he's a one-man band, and he, he's a small firm, and he does a lot of stuff. He does my LLCs, he does my nonprofit, but he also does, estate planning, and so, and he advises me on certain tax shelters and things like that.
Like, help me out.
Yeah, I don't do taxes, but yeah, so so no, it's almost like you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then you search for a provider. It's that kind of thing. But you only pay like $20 a month, and it covers you for certain things. So it'll cover you for criminal defense to an extent. It'll cover you for landlord-tenant issues. It'll cover you for traffic things. It covers you for all types of legal things. I was just saying use it for the probate part of it. I mean, the estate planning part of it. But you can use it for everything. That little $20 a month, it's worth it.
I'll say, and Miss Lady points out, talking about state differences. In Delaware, there's a mandatory wait of 30 days before you can start anything. California has creditor periods and overbid processes for houses, assets. Houses in California can be over $1 million easy.
Oh, yeah.
But Delaware is one. That's a business tax shelter state.
Yeah,
so
sure is.
That 30-day period, that's Delaware wanting to make sure that Social Security Administration is aware and can do their business. Creditors can find out that they can recoup any. And remember, this stuff isn't just personal debt. Depending on how your business is structured, your death can impact your business if you are a solo business owner. So, and then Monty, someone's got this. It won't show me who it's for, but one of you has a super chat from Monty. I have it up on the screen. So the chat, it says, great sidebar convo on life/death preps. And this is important. Talk about it. Important. Think about it at least once a year. Not to say the holiday time again, doom and gloom, but it is a time of year where people actually communicate with their families. So.
This is the perfect time, tax refund time, when you have some discretionary income.
Yeah, do you like having money? You should use it to make sure you can not lose your money in the future.
Exactly. Take a little $100, put it to the side, and save up for 4 months of Legal Shield, and just get all your stuff done, and then cancel it. Whatever. Whatever works, but get it done. Get it done. I got
Serenity. Yeah. So everyone thanks Danny. Her link. I mean, I'm gonna put the link in the description if you're watching this on replay. I'll make sure I add the channel links. But Danny does this and that if you want to search for her channel, and then Pam Entertainment TV for Pam's channel. Shout out also to Serenity Musings. She used to work in trust administration, dropping gems in the chat as well on some good advice for living trusts. Danny, thanks so much for joining in. Pam.
Thank you.
You've been quiet. What are you thinking right now?
I'll see y'all later. Thank you.
See you, Danny.
Bye-bye.
It's a lot. I'm still reeling from the
The
play, and
play.
still reeling from that. I'm also, I'm a big advocate because my father passed away a few years ago. Luckily, we had everything in intact, so it was an easier process. So I would encourage everybody to do what you can and talk about this thing while you're living. My father did that, and so I mean, he made everything easy. He even wrote his own obituary, so everything was so easy.
Any military background at all?
My father was in the military.
That's part of it, the knowing what assets are out there, having everything book kept. Like my grandfather, he's still with me. I'm very blessed. But Army man used to have a collection of cassette tapes of old radio shows, Western shows,
Wow.
archived, labeled with a notebook. Just those practices that we take for granted because we think, oh, it's online. I can have a password saver. I can sign in. But then when someone asks you, well, do you know what account someone had? Where were their stocks held? Where was this asset tied to? It's a lot. It's a lot.
Thing was, I'm telling you, and it does make a difference because, like I said, when you go through the grieving process, it's not like you're not unaware, but you're just like you're grieving and you don't want to really think about that. But my father had everything kind of lined out. I mean, even how he wanted his funeral, even how just everything. He had everything kind of lined out. So that was so much easier. And that made me understand I need to build that type of thing with my family and stuff like that. So yeah, it is. I know we don't like to talk about it, but we need to talk about it because just as we are born, we will die. But getting back to this play. Would you mind sending me that the little
Yeah, yeah,
PDF
yeah.
with that? Send that to me because I need to go back through it. I need to go back through that thing because I'm thinking again. I think me and Danny and we'd want you to come on too. We need to go back and do a timeline since we're going to be here to April.
Right? How
It
does it keep adding up and stacking up? There keeps being more and more and more. And it's just like, it never looks better for Grace's story of events, ever.
ends. It never ends. And like I said, you can. I did a last night. I did a quick video and I talked about how we see that a lot of news media have been scuttling their doors and a lot of journalists have been
So
laid
that
off.
YouTube creators are important because if a news site gets shut down, but that news article is preserved in someone's video, it still exists.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it from the angle of how I remember Blue had said something on one of his videos about how journalism changed. It went from like a blue collar type job, and then it became this elitist type job. And then all of a sudden, as
Yeah.
being an elitist type job, the news person wanted to be the personality, wanted to be the focus of the news as well as part. So then you got all of this clickbaity and all kinds of stuff. And I was reading a couple of tweets because I think Victoria Bekempis is still I still follow her, and she was telling this other person like, hey, uh, court reporting is not what it is, and it's not thing. And then the guy who she was talking to, he was like, yeah, we need to get back to grassroots reporting and reporting on court hearings and all this other stuff because there is injustice. And I got upset. I was like, there is injustice whether or not that you're in the courtroom or not. Why is nobody in the courtroom? Because you're supposed to be part of the checks and balance system. You're supposed to be able to sit in there
Yeah.
and be able to report on what's going on. And I didn't think of this at the time. Now I'm starting to see why corporations and things like that are buying news agencies and news things because they're wanting to have a certain control over the news and the news cycle and what we see. And like I said, that made me
All the
upset.
fruit comes from the same garden. It's going to taste the same.
Yeah. And I was just like, that made me mad. And I think we just need to wake up to that. Like you said, uh, YouTube and social media, because I was saying, watch these journalists come down on social media. And you might start seeing better news reporting because people are wanting to get the facts, information, stuff like that. And I just said, if you have reported the facts of what we said and stop trying to make a soundbite, you would have a whole populace that would understand better what's going on. It's after someone gets convicted, and then you start looking at the information because I'm quite sure there's a lot of the people that are here in the chat, and there are a lot of people who are here watching us when we were talking about this information, and I'm gonna tell you, I had people come in and send me messages and say like that, well, you're crazy, you're this, you're that. How could you listen to this and stuff like that? He's a this, he's a that, he's
So
a
should we
this.
just not listen? Should we not try to see? That's always what I hear when I hear something like that.
And all of a sudden, when they released the evidence and people saw this man running down the street, now all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. This is not jiving. Of course it's not jiving. Nothing jives. Nothing is going on. Nothing jives. You can look with your eyes. You can see de-escalation. We tell everybody about de-escalation. You see that firsthand, de-escalation. But, you know, he picked her up and he put
10
her back.
seconds can change your life.
Yes, he picked her up and put her back in the car. And so that's what they're using to say that, you know, oh, he was this, and then you misinterpret what you see the jury says. They didn't believe her story about him pushing her up against the thing and putting her weight on him and him beating her up to get the phone, because it didn't make any sense. You know, everybody's like, oh, well, she hit her head. There is
We've gone from this man strangled her to her head got bumped while he was trying to get away.
It's just like goalpost gets moved, because it all started with the S word. And I've said this several times and I'll continue to say it again. There's something about this S word that is gnawing at me, and I can't.
Put a 1 in the chat if you think Alvin Bragg likes to use the S word for strangulation. 1 in the chat.
Because it comes up in this, what is it, that Kevin Porter's case?
Kevin Porter?
Come up in the Adam Foss case? I'm not sure. But
no, not in that case.
But this S word keeps coming up. And every time you see any publication,
it's the unforgivable thing, because you're trying to take someone's life if you're removing oxygen.
And it comes up, and then all of a sudden it magically disappears. It magically disappears. It magically figures itself out. Oh, that's not what happened. But that's what got everybody in this uproar. This is what he was arrested for, because the police are in there doing all of this. And like I said, if they make an appeal, I want to know why the body cam audio wasn't played. Why couldn't we hear the body cam audio? Because if we'd heard
even parts of it, if there's something that you need to remove for whatever reason, block that sentence out, mute it. We have the technology. We do it. We see it in cases all the time where something, you can't play that one part, play the rest.
Yeah, I want to know, how is it that you all didn't even apply the laws that you all said that you have? If there was domestic violence and you see this man has a cut on his face, you see that she has all of these different things. What's the protocol for that? Why didn't you follow that protocol? Because did he not? I haven't watched your video in your reading of the officer, but I'm just curious to that. You know, this is how we got here. This is how a whole reputation was ruined because of that S.
Wait, you missed the Officer Swain video? Do you know that the judge interjected and said to the courtroom that Officer Swain never went into the bedroom? The judge said that Officer Swain never went into the bedroom after like an hour of expert testimony and watching the video of him walking through the bedroom. The judge was like, Officer Swain never went into the bedroom.
You know, I'm still reeling from the judge telling the jury and telling the people that what she says is her information is factual.
You're about to hear what really happened. The witness is about to tell you what really happened.
And to me, that's like prejudicial. I still think that background information was prejudicial. And the reason why I say that is because it should have been very generic. If you're going to talk about background information, these people met on this date, they dated from this date, they broke up, they got back together, they broke up, they got back together. Let's move on down. Let's go for this March 25th incident. But, you know, it's a whole
At least half the direct testimony was background information that was not supposed to be considered, blah, 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 blah. Half of the direct testimony.
You cannot, I mean, I'm human. And you see me, I'm nosy. So I want to know, and I'll think back to certain things. I'm already going to think, because you see me sitting here now, pulling up where a t-shirt or a sweatsuit came from. Did he wear it in the Men's Health? Did he wear it? What's this? You know, we're doing all these kind of things, and you mean to tell me that you're going to sit and tell a jury that this is the information that you're not to use this information, but this is factual information? That makes no sense to me.
Hey, chat. So Artemis or anyone, did Pam just get a little bit louder? Pam, can you do like a testing 1, 2, 3?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing.
But you're
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
whispering 1, 2, 3. Say it like how you're just speaking. Like, let's see if you're. I turned your volume up.
Saying it doesn't make any sense because how's that, y'all? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, are we getting a little bit better audio here? They might be on a delay, so we'll get an answer from them. But I did turn your volume up on my settings over here. And now we're hanging. We got a much better. Yes, I didn't break StreamYard.
Because I'm looking back, and also, y'all, my voice is coming in and out.
Artemis, say it like you talking to the heavens.
Baby, let me tell you something. It's always amazing to me just to look at that, and then, like I said, when you have the media only zeroing in on one thing, this Coretta Scott,
or I'm a monster.
And you see all of this just like blow up, but everybody's not paying attention to the fact that you staged this whole thing. We don't get to see your tweets. We don't get to see all of these things. But anything that looks like to make him monster, and I understand that that's what they are. What do you call those?
The theory of their case, like it's still
they're combating,
context.
they're fighting, and they're as to who is the better lawyer, who is doing all of these little different things, but. Still, it's still about we need to have the facts of what's going on. And like I said, I understand that they probably lost, the defense probably lost in regards to getting those tweets. But to me, they were so relevant. All those tweets from September didn't mean anything to me because I didn't have the context and I didn't have the bandwidth to be able to understand all those things. Just cursory, I could say, oh, that don't sound good. But see, we don't know the minutia. We don't know all the little different things. And just like we were going over earlier, now it starts to make sense. Where did you get all this putting pills, putting tweets out saying, it's only you will know. Only there is no note. Only you would know. Of course he would know. He watched the daggone play.
Yeah, and if I know that you just chased this man 5 blocks, and then I see a text message from September where apparently there was some breakup in this multi-day fight, and then there's something about you having a head bump. Could you not have been chasing this man around the house, tripped over something, and fell and hit your head in that process? If you even had a head injury, right? That's assuming that part is even true. Because she could have just been saying, I'll just tell them I hit my head because I need to say I have some kind of pain to warrant a prescription for painkillers, for sleeping pills, whatever.
We don't even know the sequential order of these texts because there's a thing like, well, of course I won't do this because I want to be with you. When was this? Because we know we had a 2 or 3 day fight. We know we had this big 2 or 3 day fight. So
somewhere before the it's just fake that was blocked out.
Yeah. So there was. So we don't have the context. So I'm not saying that And then it's just so sad to know that people run around here in this level of perfectness that you think that you're in a relationship and you won't fight. Oh, well, he shouldn't have said that. Excuse me. You just brought some drunk ass woman. Excuse me, Kat. But you just brought this drunk ass woman to somebody's house. And you're drunk as well.
And you can't have a standard.
Yes. And Lord knows what you did before you got there because both of y'all are drunk and you're walking back from the pub. So you don't know if somebody follows you back from the pub. Now, I do understand that English sensibilities are different than American sensibilities because here in the United States, you're just not walking back from the pub as 2 drunk women and not think that there's somebody walking behind you checking out where you're going. That may be different in England.
Well, and Grace JABBBARI testified that she knew not to do that. She said she didn't drink too much at Lucy's because she knew that wouldn't be good for a woman to be doing. So her sensibility, she testified that was her sensibility. That's what makes it worse. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You go into these transcripts and you think like something's got to make sense. How did the jury even find anything guilty? I'm going to read these transcripts and I'm going to figure out why. And then I read them and I'm like, no, I just think it looks better for him. I think she looks like more of a liar.
Yeah, well, of course, because you've already lived a lie. And now you're trying to tell that lie, but you're trying to tell that lie in an air that makes you look better. And so, of course, you're going to do stutter steps and talk things like that. Of course, you're going to say in the middle of the night that you were empowered, stuff like that, because those are the buzzwords. Well, how are you empowered? Because he told you that y'all done broke up. You got the breakup.
You were thinking for yourself.
Yeah. You got the breakup text. So you weren't empowered, nothing. What you were supposed to do is get your ass out the damn apartment. That's what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to
Did you
call
leave
whoever.
the keys?
Yeah. Did you leave the keys? You were supposed to call whoever it was you were supposed to call because your time there was done. Your time there was done. Whoever it was you're going to call. Who do you call? You call somebody way across the pond who can't even, who won't be able to do anything for you. But yet you have a sister and you have a quote unquote manager, choreography coach, whoever it is that you say that he is. You have these two people there that could assist you in the middle of the night.
Not for nothing. She also had the police. She could have called the police. If she wanted to say that she was assaulted, she could have called the police. She could have called medics any time of the night.
Any time of the night.
But she didn't because why? She assaulted him.
You had the credit card. You could have got into the cab and you could have gone to the emergency room. You could have gone to all these little different places because you knew you were out. But because, and you can't not make me not believe this, you had the ability to, and coerce is the word that's only coming up to mind, but that's not what I'm meaning. But you had the ability to manipulate, know his buttons and what to push. You knew that that was something that he would, that whole setup that you put was a button that you knew how to push. You already knew how to do all of that. You knew that that was a button that you knew how to push. And ladies, we know that. Don't act like what I'm saying is crazy and out of pocket. But you knew that that was a button that you had to
You
push.
know if a it's fine will open the floodgates. You know if a silent treatment will open the floodgates or do not disturb setting on your phone will open the floodgates. You know if crying and following them so they can't separate from you will finally make them say, "What? Fine, I'll listen. What's going on? Let me apologize. I'm sorry. Can we just stop?" You know what will be the thing that works. And in this case, we know what works because of Detective Daisy. So Daisy, from reading this, Daisy just joined the chat. Everyone shout out Daisy. It seems like, Daisy, you might be watching this live and might go back and do the replay. We, with Pam on, so Pam, we got to see Pam's reaction to the reading of the play. Danny caught the tail end of it. The chat has shown you so much love. So the chat will be here once the replay ends. It'll still be available on the side of the screen. I don't know if you can scroll back far enough right now. But you got so much love for your detective work here, unraveling exactly what put this idea in Grace JABBBARI's head to lay there on the closet floor and play the dumped and abandoned girlfriend role, the white girlfriend role. So when you get to that part of the replay, make sure you look at the chat because you got so much love.
So much. Listen, it's like Soulja Boy said, she did word for word, bar for bar. When I saw that, Daisy, I was just like, kudos to you, because I was like, it didn't make any sense. How do you go from 1,000, 1,500,000 and 600 chats to all of a sudden you're staging this pruning from the timeline?
That was David not being able to find Alton.
Good deep dive. Good deep dive. Good deep dive. And it was only something that he would know because they saw that play. So that's why she couldn't remember, or I don't recall what the play was about.
Or what we were mad when we were talking about it right after at dinner. Why there was tension at dinner. I don't remember. There was just tension for a lot of reasons.
And I'm curious to know. I'm real curious to know because, like I said, I'm really, really curious to know if the subject of dating other people, if the subject of just overall stuff, it kind of come out.
It's true. So she goes out to a bar. She could have stayed right there with her ass, right at the bar. Instead of getting to the cab, she could have paid for a hotel room. We saw her struggling to, what is it called when you do the Wi-Fi, the mobile Wi-Fi, the hotspot, and you're trying. We saw her struggling to try to do that so she could call a cab. She could have taken the credit card and, oh, can I just go upstairs? Can I book a room? I can just stay right here and be safe. But that wouldn't help you get closer to figuring out if Jonathan was home waiting for you and where he was.
Exactly.
That's crazy. So anyone listening, by the way, I should have said it out loud. So I'm responding to Juanita pointing out that, for fuck's sake, Lucy's was in a hotel. So Lucy's is a club. It's part of a hotel building in Manhattan. And she could have just booked a room. She was so scared.
Yeah. But you went to go see. And remember when they showed that footage where when you got back to the hotel, you sat down outside of the apartment. and you were fiddling and doing whatever you needed to do because you're trying to figure out whether or not he was inside or not. But
I think it's crazy just thinking. I'm like, it's like, I heard that it was a hotel the whole time, but now just thinking about it, it's just so much more annoying. Oh, hold on. So Daisy is the detective over here. Let's see. And this is a lot, but let me read we were just referencing her playing dumb about the dinner, right?
Right.
Daisy, Detective Daisy, before you hopped in the stream, you must have looked this all out. Let's see. And yeah, someone else in the chat, the live chat earlier, pointed out that Oscar Isaac performed in this play and may have performed that night. And he was a friend. Let me just share this part. So shout out to Daisy. Daisy is finding this. This is a Reddit post we're about to look at. Damn, Detective Daisy. Shout out again to Detective Daisy.
Special Agent Daisy. That's the Special Agent Daisy. Right, Juanita. She knew how to trigger his emotional responses.
So, this is a Reddit post from, let's see, does it give us, it just says 11 months ago. Does it give us a specific date somewhere? There's got to be details, right? Maybe not, but 11 months ago. And someone else mentioned this in the chat earlier, about Oscar Isaac specifically. So, and I don't see a date in the URL either. So I don't know if there's a way that we can see the detail here, but it says, I saw the performance of The Sign in Sidney Brustein's window at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, Harvey, last night, and after the show, as we were lining up to walk out to the theater, I looked at the man standing next to me, and it was Jonathan Majors. It most likely means nothing, but it was pretty cool to see Kang and Moon Knight in the same room. Edit. Oh, well, there's a girlfriend mention. Well, I don't know what to say now after hearing about the DV thing. I'm not really feeling too excited anymore. I saw his girlfriend too. Neither of them looked particularly happy. I read the TMZ article, and the incident happened last night, even though he was arrested today. So it had to have happened after the show. What the fuck? Oh my god, I bet this is just uh-ohs. This is the reaction versus reality, people. This is how it goes. Everyone... I hope the victim gets justice and Majors gets help. Who's his girlfriend? Like, sounds like, thank God. Shout out to Dexter's Kennel, whoever this is in the comments. Like, sounds like Majors is innocent according to witness testimony and video footage. Shout out to whoever this is not immediately buying into the story. That's like a snapshot in time to look back and see this. But interesting, because someone else did point out in the chat earlier, it was Oscar Isaac, and that Oscar Isaac is a friend of Jonathan Majors, right? So that could explain maybe how he got the tickets or why he wanted them particularly intently, because it would have been the last chance if it was going to be him in the show and the show was ending. But this idea here, I saw his girlfriend too. Neither of them looked particularly happy. Well, and then Daisy's also... Yeah, go ahead, Pam. Sorry, I cut you off.
I am looking for that person who took the selfie, whoever you are, who took a selfie of him that night. I would love to see that selfie because I'm looking for cuts and things like that. That's what I'm looking. Whoever you are, you remember he stopped and took a selfie with the fan that night?
Yeah.
I'm looking for that person. We need to see the...
I forgot. That has to be, I think that's in the defenses. It's a defense exhibit, isn't it?
Yeah, somebody took a selfie. Somebody took a selfie. I don't know if the defense had it or not, but clearly I would love to see.
And hold on, I have, just that way I don't pull up like anyone's email address. Daisy went and actually looked at the testimony regarding that night. I just plopped it into this Word document so we can read it without anyone's email. But Daisy pulled the transcripts about this dinner. So right now this is direct testimony. How do you know the defendant was acting cold? Just the kind of level of conversation, his demeanor physically, just a bit tighter, yeah. There was no, touching or looking at me at all. And approximately how long had you been dating on March 24th? Coming up 2 years in August. What, if anything, did the defendant say at dinner? He was saying that because of the conversation I had had, that he was going to unalive himself. I forgot about all these details. So right after this play, she's saying he was saying all of this at dinner. That's why it was weird. That he, saying kind of stuff. He's a monster. He says I'm a monster. I shouldn't be here. Now everyone knows, and and kind of blaming me, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to do it. And I was replying saying, please don't. Think of your family, all of this, kind of. So we know that she could just be hinging to this monster mention because she knows it's mentioned in one text ever. But while she's being asked about his demeanor after saying he was acting cold, this is what we're getting at. So no mention of the play at all. It goes on to another page. Have you had similar conversations previously? Yes. And what did you reply to the defendant? I just asked him to kind of just take a deep breath and know that it's not what that should be the option here. The option here should be getting help, not like this extreme of killing yourself. It's not, I knew it's hard to know what I can say. My response was that he shouldn't do it and that there's other ways to deal with these feelings that he's feeling and his behaviors. That's a nice little way to assert that it's him doing something. There's other ways to fix this, and that shouldn't be that, You're precious and loved, and How did the defendant threaten to commit suicide impact you at dinner? It almost felt like every time he said it, it was going into this kind of wound, this same wound, just feeling like I didn't even know why you're feeling like this because you don't tell me. Hold on. Didn't you just complain that he says this all the time to you? And this whole thing, this conversation tonight is all about the fact I was just asking for some help and it's causing you to feel like this. So this conversation, this whole thing is all about the fact I was just asking for some help. I'm assuming in reference to speaking to Priya Satyani, and it's causing you to feel like this. But then, so how do I navigate myself in this situation? I just need a little bit of support, just a tiny bit. And I'm not allowed because if I say like, there's a way, another page, out of this, if there's a way out of this, that's not that. And I can do it with you. And I'm going to kill myself. So then it felt like I'm not allowed to bring it up. So we have it stay in this place of where it is, which is not, I felt fear in those moments as that line sounds like that ending line of the play that we saw. That it was like this because it always was. I felt fear in those moments as opposed to love and safety and all of the other moments surrounding it. And this sounds like Jonathan Majors' language in that text message from September. You didn't show me love. I didn't feel love. You don't protect us. And now she's taking those words and twisting it here. When you comforted the defendant, this is Galloway, how did the defendant respond? Eventually, he kind of came around to feeling safe and loved, and then we had a really nice rest of the evening. And what did you eat at that dinner? Quite a lot, I think. It was like some meat, some rice dishes. What, if anything, did you have to drink? We had a couple cocktails, maybe 3. One of them was sent over by some people who were fans of his, and then I think we got 2 more. And what was the mood at the end of dinner? It was really, really nice. Like, it was really flirty, really intimate again. And we were saying how we were excited to get home and just have a nice time. So, Pam, where are you at right now?
This is where I'm at. You notice how everything is either she's his savior. You notice how everything is that she's always pointing out what he's doing, but she never points out what she's done and said, because I'm trying to figure out, how does a conversation talk about killing himself? Because y'all were talking about the damn play. You were talking about the damn play. He was, like I said, I'm not going to say that he was or he wasn't, but y'all were talking about the damn play. And he probably mentioned how he probably felt like that in some situations earlier in his life. Y'all were talking about this damn play. That just makes me believe that y'all were talking about this play, and you were trying to turn everything to make it seem like something was ramping up to what your behaviors were. But keep going.
Well, saying this is the question too. So Daisy explicitly notes this here, is she's claiming that she comforts Jonathan Majors in this moment, but everything we're seeing here is like, I didn't know what to say. I'm hear this all the time. Well, how do I support myself? So she's not the one, because she put on this persona of she always had to bring him back down to reality, because he would do this stuff all the time and it was manipulative. It affected her. But we don't see her taking any action except like sitting there and waiting for him to shut up so she doesn't have to hear it anymore. She just waits to stop hearing about herself. So Monty says, busted, get her, Pam.
I'm just sitting here thinking, this is your man, your man, your man, your man, right? And you're supposed to know your man, your man, your man, your man. If your man, your man, your man, your man is constantly in every daggone conversation that he has with you talking about suicide, and you mean to tell me you're not calling or trying to get somebody or get some help for him?
Except for the manager. You just call his manager.
Exactly. Then he's not your man, your man. I'm so confused. I'm just so confused. You know he's with the counselor, but then you don't know he's with the counselor. If this man is talking the way that you're saying that he is talking, why are you not on the phone with his counselor saying, listen, even if you had to go behind his back, listen, he keeps talking about these suicide ideations, and I don't know what to say with him. I just do barely enough to be able to say something to him. But no, oh, well, I just talk to him, and I help him out. You're not calling the appropriate people. But when he does or says something that you're trying to delve in, you call his manager. You don't call his mama.
Only his manager.
And there's no way in the world that you're going to make me believe that he doesn't have 1, 2, or 3 friends somewhere around there. I'm quite sure there's somebody that he is friendly with, that he is hung. I'm just confused. It confuses me. That's your man, your man, your man, and you don't get your man no help.
This is the first thing I would do. If I was in this situation, I would look to call a brother if the person has a brother, because this is a male family member, a male family member that they trust could relate to it better. A sister might be more sure to be proactive and go out of the way to take it somewhere else and make sure help was gotten. The family members, if mom's still around.
Exactly.
So suspect that wasn't the person.
So the reason why I'm saying this, you all, is because that makes me not believe that that's what the conversation was. I believe that they were having a conversation about that play. And so you're mentioning pruning from the timeline simply because that fits into this narrative. There's something wrong, that he's a monster because he said it in the past. If he has said it in the past and there's no help, because that's your man, your man, your man. You don't want your man to prune himself from the timeline.
No, especially even if you don't care about him like all that intimately, if he's your meal ticket, like you would have gone out of your way to prevent this. Like, put me in your will or name me in your life insurance or something. Can we talk about that? Like, there would have been some type of concern, even if it was selfish. It wouldn't have just been I'm tired of hearing about it. This issue is it wasn't happening. At least not in this way.
Not in this way. That's why I'm thinking, shout out again, Special Agent Daisy. That puts so much perspective in, because for me, it's odd for someone to be sitting there excited. Now, listen, let me get you all to where I'm going here. For someone to be excited about getting tickets to a play that has been sold out, that you've been trying to get to then turn around and be talking about, oh, I'm wanting to delete myself from the timeline, and you're having to do that. That makes no sense to me. That don't make no sense to me. Oh, he was very excited about going. Okay, you go to this play. I'm quite sure that you all are sitting around talking about this particular play. Oh, his mood was different. Was his mood different? Or was he being very introspective about talking about this play? And you don't want to talk about this play. Because see, you want 1 margarita, 2 margaritas, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 margaritas. You don't really care about that. You want to be able to party, go home, cock your legs open, and have a good time. That's what you wanted. And that's not how the night went.
Like the intimate moment between brunch and the elevator.
Yeah.
And I think Daisy has it right on the head. So Daisy says here, when she mentioned that he called himself a monster, I think she was just lying and recalling those texts, because even in the language of this testimony we just read, she's saying I replying instead of saying said. And when I just read this line here, it's highlighted twice. And I was replying saying, please don't. That's how she replied in those September text messages. And to me, Pam, if I'm telling someone later about the conversation we had today, I'm not going to be like, And I was replying to Pam while Pam was talking on my live stream. I'd be like, yeah, and I was saying, and she was saying, and I was saying. Replying is very much a written communication type, or like a book. When you read a book and it's like, they replied.
Like I replied to her in my text, I said such and such and such and such, or the email that I replied. That's not
And we
how
know, and we know that message was like, Jonathan, how are you saying these things? You know I'm going to have to get help. And we know that was an actual reply, what she's saying here. So it seems like she's interpolating this testimony with an old detail she knows is a relic. There's a paper trail of it. She's just dropping it in there.
Right.
And she probably knows that the prosecution wants to get this in. And the prosecution's like, well, we can't just barge it in. We need a reason to get it in. She probably knows that. She's not unaware. The prosecution isn't like keeping all their strategy to themselves when they're having interviews with these people.
They probably prepped her. I mean, let's not be, as the word du jour, let's not be obtuse.
Well, and on redirect, she says that she only saw the thumb drive that those texts were on 30 minutes before redirect. As if to say she didn't know these text messages existed before the prosecution showed her this thumb drive that they happened to be stored on.
But they're on your phone. Because even with an iPhone, even if I delete that conversation, once you text me again, that whole conversation comes all the way back.
Yep. Or if I'm looking through the old text because I want to like look at my own tracks, or I'm looking for anything, if I'm hurt enough, I'm reading through a lot of stuff to figure out where I went wrong, right? But maybe not everybody has that sense of wanting to know or self-reflection. Oh yeah, and that's true. His mother's a pastor. Call her. She probably doesn't know that either. She knows as much about him as I do. I'm learning so much. I'm probably know more now thanks to you guys, because I didn't know anything about him when I started looking at this case. She's probably just like me with the background knowledge, but I didn't date him, so.
Here's the kicker that we're missing. Not only is his mother a pastor, his mother is a mental health professional. Call his mom. Call his mom. He's talking like this. Call his mom. Yeah, I just hope I'm making sense, because sometimes I think I'm in bizarro world and everybody is just like acting crazy. But there's no way in the world that you're gonna sit here and tell me that this man is talking about pruning himself from the timeline, and you don't. Excuse me. Even if you don't have his mother's number, you know his phone. I'm quite sure, because in an iPhone, it has your emergency contacts. You could call your emergency contacts. All you got to do is press some kind of button or hold something.
Or ask Priya Satyani for that. Do you have his contact? Do you know, can you point me in the right direction? You don't need to say why. You could just be like, even if she asks, you could just be like, oh, I'm just, I want to talk to her about something. I'm planning a surprise party. You can make up that type of white line. It's not anything malicious, right? And then
it's not anything overbearing that she'd be like, oh, okay. Or you could just have to say, hey, you have his mom's number, or can you get his mom's number?
Or suggest to him, if he's really talking to you about this dinner, be like, why don't you talk to your mom about it? Why don't you spend some time with your family? What do you need? What do you actually need? Well, I mean, she probably wouldn't want to suggest something that would spend time away from her. But, because like Fahim says here, Grace JABBBARI reminds me of the Pilgrims. I think you're talking about like white savior that would go to the jungle and save the indigenous tribe only to kill them with smallpox. Like, oh, look at me. I'm a hero. I'm so virtuous. But really, you're just sabotaging the whole time.
Like they did in the state of Hawaii. They did the same thing over here. And then they give you blankets that people have smeared that smallpox virus on. And you give them the blanket. Oh, we're just trying to keep you warm and safe. But it's got smallpox.
Pam, I'm going to let you read this comment.
That's what we call chicken.
It sure is. It kind of, see, now I'm also thinking of, and I don't have the window open to quickly pull over to it, but just the resemblance between the actress that played Gloria in this play they see that night, looking exactly like Grace JABBBARI. And then so Shahid does say, is there a recap of the new update? So really short, the beginning of this video, really the first 45 minutes, break down what the motion to set aside the verdict is all about, what grounds could, serve for a request to set aside the verdict, and what it looks like if judge agrees to grant that motion. In short, the three major grounds are something on the record that happened in court, But the judge is the same Judge Gaffey would be looking at this. It's not good to be like, hey, judge, you did something on the record that's not right. Probably not a good argument. The second is juror misconduct or someone with misconduct in relation to a juror. And then the third is new evidence that was not available at the time of trial, that even with due diligence, the defense wouldn't have been able to find, that they now have found, and its introduction, if it was able to have been introduced at trial, would have impacted the verdict. There was a probability it would have impacted the verdict in a way that would be favorable to the defendant. So not absolutely, but just a probability that it would undermine the confidence of the verdict. So those are the three grounds that in New York State statute, a motion to set aside the verdict could, be applied for and possibly granted for. And again, all of these same issues could be also raised in an appeal argument, but this is a post-conviction path of recourse that you can start before sentencing. So that's why PREA is filing this now at this time. Prosecution statutorily has time to respond. The judge is going to schedule a hearing for April 1st to make his decision after the prosecution's response is made. So that's our update there to recap all of that to get you caught up to speed. And then I don't know why Cerny's saying I'm dead at Pam, so I don't remember exactly the comment, but I'm sure. And Daisy, I agree. I'm sure there's just no way they didn't utter a single word about the play. They just went back to sitting at the dinner and they were just mad for no reason. Like,
that makes no sense. I mean, even if you think about that, even if you have two people that know nothing about each other and they're sitting around at the table after they have had, you don't know anything about each other, so all you have to talk about is the play. All you have to do is talk about the play. There's no way in the world that you're going to make me believe that play didn't come up, that you all weren't talking or whatever. Because she said after they got a few drinks in them, they got a little looser, they got a little better or whatever it was, and they got ready to go. What do you think they were going to do?
Hold on, I'm going to keep this up. I'm going to try to pull up this TMZ article. We can read these last tidbits here because this is still about the dinner here. If we get to a new page, and let's see, I'll pull up the TMZ too. Page 105. So, we read this page.
Read that note.
Wait, did we read that? Okay, yeah. So Grace JABBBARI claims
that she comforted JM in his moment of threatening suicide at the dinner, to the point where he became flirty and that he came around and felt safe and loved.
She's the savior. Fahim, you on it. Daisy and Fahim. Fahim's also seeing it.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's revisionist history. That's what it sounds like to me, because you're not talking about, I just remember when y'all, and I may be just going off on a tangent, but I remember when I was younger and when I would explain something to my mom about what was going on and what was happening to me. And she would always go back to, okay, but what did you do? I hear what they did. What did you do? How did you react? What did you do? And it wasn't a matter of trying to make it seem like it was my fault that the things that were going on. What she was trying to teach me was that your reaction to things that are going on is how things can escalate. You've got to figure out how to figure out what you're doing and how you're doing it, so things don't escalate. So it never makes you look in the bad light. Everything looks like the way it is. So you have to own, this is what my mother would tell me, you have to own your feelings, you have to own your behaviors, because only then will you be able to see the true picture of what's going on. I don't see any ownership of that. How in the world that you going to sit up here and say somebody is sitting up there threatening to commit suicide, and you just talked to him kind of nicely and he felt safe and secure? What did you say? That don't make any sense to me. And like I said, I don't know, because maybe
he probably just agreed to drop whatever the conversation was about the play, and then they got to move on. That's it.
And like I said, I'm that person. You tell me that you're about to delete yourself on the timeline, I'm calling 911. That's just me, because I don't have the bandwidth to be able to try to talk you off the ledge. I'm gonna let somebody else talk you off the ledge. I don't have that bandwidth, and
that's fine, right? That's okay to not have that bandwidth or not know what to do. That's understandable. But to
Yeah,
want to control it in the moment, to dismiss it in the moment, and then flip it and reverse it when a trial comes up involving that type of thing, and you want to go on and prove so badly that you were a victim, that you're going to turn this type of thing around on somebody, that's cruel. That's that carrying on of abuse long after the breakup.
that's diabolical. It ain't cruel. That's diabolical. Because again, I don't have the bandwidth for that. I know that. So I'm gonna call. Look, you keep talking like this. We are about to go. No, we're about to go. We're gonna get in the car. Driver, hey, we're going to the emergency room. Take me to the nearest emergency room. And if he refused, and I'm getting out the car because I don't want to be, because like I said, I don't have the bandwidth for that. So I'm not going to sit up there, but I'm not going to sit up here and tell somebody, oh, can I just talk about, what did you do? Y'all weren't talking about that. Y'all were talking about the suicide ideations of what was going on with this play. This is why you couldn't remember. Oh, I don't remember such. I know where we went. I just don't remember the play that we were going to. Yeah, right. It's not believable. That's not believable.
We've seen her play dumb in other moments of her testimony, and when she couldn't play dumb, she'd run out of the court crying. So if she wants to say she doesn't remember what they were fighting about at the dinner, but then remembers all this, oh, he was saying he was a monster suddenly. No, you were just reminded you were talking about the subject of a play, and instead of actually saying that, you're going to I'm going to take the general topic, and I'm going to couch my own manipulation from this one single instance where he texted me, he's a monster. And I'm going to drop that phrase in here all over the place. And
you set all that up. You set it all up. Because now that I'm thinking about when you got on the elevator and they show you on the elevator about your shirt and your button, you button it up, but then you take the button back off. He didn't say anything about that. I mean, because he would have seen you button it back up. But then when you get into the car, he's going to see that the button is down. He didn't say anything about that button.
It was almost like a, how do I look? What do you think? And you're just asking because you're not looking at yourself. He's the one in front of you. And you're like, is this one good? Or should I do one more? Should I do one less?
It probably was like any man. It looked all right, baby. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, like, let's go. I'm hungry. Let's get on. We're going to be late.
Like, you don't know when it, it'd be different if it was buttoned down to like right here and you don't have the tape or whatever it is to keep your shirt from flying over. But if it's just buttoned here and it's not popping open or anything, it's like, all right, it's good, let's go. And then you make the decision to unbutton it. As soon as you had made that decision to unbutton, he turned around. He should have been fussing at you because he just said, according to you, that the button was too low. It's just not.
Yeah, and it was still like that when they're walking into. They have the surveillance footage later from the restaurant that it's still, her chest is still open, like there's skin, because that would have been after the play.
After him, the shirt was still like that. When she was with white hat and Captain Saberhole, it was still like that. So no, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's do this TMZ article. But yeah, everyone in the chat is like, this doesn't. Tracker's like, I've been calling this bitch diabolical since day one. Yeah. And not the chick who makes my car reservations. Yeah, that's not who you go to say, hey, someone needs help.
Yeah.
When you know their family works in that industry. And then don't forget the ex-boyfriend offed himself. I wonder what she had to do with that. And that's kind of like, that would be a great excuse to be like, I can't bear this burden because I still have my own, I dealt with it personally. I'm personally affected by it. I want you to get help. How can I help you? You can shift that burden, but don't dismiss that need. Don't dismiss that feeling.
Swan, if you know that you've had someone to prune themselves off the timeline, you would be so much more sensitive to hearing somebody else do that. Even to the point where either you leave the situation, or you are a big advocate of getting that person some help. That's why it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. But you can run out the courtroom crying and screaming about it. But that doesn't make any sense to me. If you've had somebody
main character syndrome.
Exactly. Let's get into this TMZ.
So we're going to do this TMZ thing. And guys, I'll probably, and Pam, you can take it too. I'll download this live stream and cut this segment out. That way, anyone that wants to know what's going on in this hearing part, they don't have to sit through 4 hours of us. Although they should. I hope they all hear that nice trust, will, legacy planning conversation we all had. We should all be thinking about that. But TMZ, what's the T? So, Jonathan Majors' sentencing hearing delayed. Lawyers want verdict set aside. Jonathan Majors was supposed to learn his fate today, but the matter got kicked down the road because his team is asking a judge to vacate the conviction entirely. The actor's sentencing hearing was scheduled for Tuesday, but instead of him showing up to hear what sort of punishment he'd be facing after being found guilty of assault and harassment, the judge in his case continued sentencing for a whole 2 months. John's next hearing is scheduled for April 8th, and the reason is because his legal team filed some last-minute motions, so we're still plural, and that they want heard and considered first before then. The motion in question, we're told his team is asking to set aside the verdict. So again, the reason this motion's getting all the attention is because it's the one with the statutory obligation for the prosecution to have time to respond, and then the judge has to make a decision and decide to issue an order or not. So there was more than one motion, but this is the one that they're allowed to allow a response period, so it's going to push that timeline down. We're told his team is asking to set aside the verdict that came down in December when a jury found him guilty of 2 counts, but not the other 2, which were far more serious. Thanks, TMZ! Shout out to TMZ for that, they found him guilty of assault and harassment, and then ignore the rest. They point out that 2 and 2, and he was acquitted of the 2 more serious ones. Shout out to them. Remember, he was convicted of reckless assault and in the 3rd degree and harassment. Sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ, and they include this chase video. Jonathan lawyers feel like they have several grounds for their motion to be granted, including insufficient evidence presented at trial, inconsistent charges, and the idea that prosecutors pursuing a reckless theory was BS. So I'm assuming this is in relation... TMZ might be saying that this is for this specific motion, but this would also, guys, this stuff's all going to come up in any appeals that have to be filed or move forward. It's not like it will only end with this motion. Long story short, we're told Jonathan Majors' team believes prosecutors argued that the assault was intentional throughout the trial. But then they ended up giving the jury instructions about convicting him for reckless assault, offering up a separate option for a potential conviction on something they weren't really arguing throughout the course of the trial. That's why his lawyers believe... Yeah, and so if you think about it, it's not like there was a possible lesser charge. If you only found it met some of these elements, you can only find for this. It's a separate cause, or separate action, a separate moment in that lapse of time that the different charges were supposed to be attached to. Did he intentionally hurt her in the car? Did he accidentally hit her outside of the car? So this is interesting.
Overcharging. That's my problem with putting all these charges out here, because it does get confusing. If you're saying that he intentionally did that, then that's the charges that you should have been arguing, and that's the charges that should have been on there. There shouldn't be these default charges that you have, like, oh, well, if I can't get this, I'm gonna get this. That's why they charged him with, what was it, 8 or 9 charges at first, because again, that S word kept coming up, and those S words, weren't they felonies at one time? I'm not sure.
I don't think it was all the way up to maybe the strangulation charge, but I think there's a strangulation charge that is still couched down as just a misdemeanor charge. I'd have to look to be sure, so don't look for me to quote this entirely.
Yeah, and I'm just putting in my little 2 cents in here. When we talk about, oh, we don't get into politics, oh, we don't get into any of these things that are going on, this is why it's so very important that you do, because there's no reason in the world that someone for one incident should be charged with 16 different crimes, just because I can put 16 different crimes in here and the jury is going to convict on one. That's stacking the deck. If you're saying that this person intentionally harmed her, then you need to be setting your case to say that she intentionally charged her, and that you should be setting the charges that show that they intentionally charged them. There shouldn't have been a bevy of charges that started from a violation for a ticket to come to almost a year in jail. You need to pick the charges that fit the case and keep it moving. Okay.
And it's human psychology too, because if there's 1 cookie left on the plate, nobody wants to take that last cookie. But if you have 10 cookies on a plate, oh, we can take 1, that's fine. And you give us 4 options. Well, we don't really know how we feel about this whole ordeal, but we can just tack 1 on there.
Yeah.
It's just a psychology thing. So, but they're raising this very specific point that, in closing arguments, they're changing what they're describing about a specific incident, which is important because we only have Grace JABBBARI's testimony and then what the driver said, and then that clip of the surveillance video that starts when they're in the doorframe of the car. And now they're offering a different interpretation of those events that would tie to different charges. Not a lesser than, but a either or, and possibility of all. They're not instructed that way, which I can see that being an interesting argument, not one that I think the judge will be like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like an argument that has to be adjudicated further up the line. So they're asking the judge to throw it out. The judge will presumably rule on his team's motion and sentencing as well in April. So we got that from another article. April 1st is when he's saying he's going to rule on this motion after getting a response from the state. And then sentencing is tentatively scheduled again for April 8th, 1 week later. So that's where we're at. That's a nice little nugget there. It's a good point for us to think about in this TMZ article. What do you guys have to say in the chat? Interesting. Blue says, I wouldn't dare say the cause. I would dare to say the case and charges should be thrown out due to false arrest. He was only arrested because of the strangulation charge. And we've got that on video of them looking at the neck and taking pictures of the lines on the neck.
Put anything in, they need to put that. If they're talking about this arrest, they need to talk about the fact that the audio from those body cams were not put in, because audio from body cams from the cases that I have seen have always been put in, because that is product of the arrest. Everything is product. How do you sit up here and have people judge something when you know that there's audio, but you don't allow them to listen to the audio?
Especially in that audio, she says that the finger injury happened in a whole different segment of the timeline.
Exactly.
And again, guys, if you hear me say the phrase mechanism of injury, that's just not me using certain words. That's like legal terminology. What is the mechanism of injury? How is this person being charged? What was the mechanism of this injury for, we're claiming assault because of an injury. There was an injury incurred. But what was the mechanism of that injury? You can't just go in and argue and switch your theory of the mechanism of injury. You can come in and say, hey, the only two people present at this time say this happened, and we don't know exactly what happened in that moment. We just know they came out. You can't just change your story to explain a mechanism of injury mid-trial and instruct the jury in closing. I see a valid argument here. Again, not for the same judge to hear, but to be adjudicated further up the trail.
Yeah, we speculate, but we don't really even know the mechanism of injuries, because let's just be very, very real. We see what happened in the last car 3, I think it is, where they're jumping out in the middle of traffic. That freaked me out. You're jumping out in the middle of traffic and she's trying to pull him back and stuff like that. But we don't know. I don't know. And maybe you can say this. Did they have all the footage from the club? Because again, there is a big swath of time where he's not even around her. Who's to say? Because I think, I don't know if I was talking to you on maybe a stream that you and I were on, or if it's you and Danny, because I mentioned the anatomy of the bruising, how the finger was a certain color versus all these other things that they said that she had. We don't know, because remember, the bruising was seen by the doctor, 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock. And if you talk about
then, yeah.
So if you're talking about a bruise like that, the anatomy of it coming in there, he was not with you after 1 o'clock. So you're looking at 11 and 12 o'clock or whatever it was. There's a big swath of time that you were not even with him. We see there's video evidence. And thank you for showing that. There's video evidence right after the car. You see your hand is not bruised and not messed up. We see video evidence even after you leave him from the third car and you go to the club. Your hand doesn't feel to be business because you're digging in your purse. And again, your body registers pain whether you want it to or not. Why?
Especially if you're testifying that you're not drunk. If you're making the testimony, you don't want to say that you were drunk. You don't have that excuse that you didn't feel something because you just downed a bunch of whiskey. Like,
when you got to that club, you were digging into your hands, you were doing all kinds of stuff, you were still flipping your hair and all this other stuff. Your body wasn't registering pain. And here's the thing that I'm going to go back to. There is that video that shows her sitting right before she goes into the apartment. She is still digging in her purse. She's still doing all of these different things. She's doing all of these different things. So that's another place where you're not registering pain. So where did the mechanism of the injury happen? Your fingernail is lifted. Now, I believe that came from you grabbing after his coat jacket, because the way you're dragging, your nail would have caught like this. This part of your nail, if you're dragging somebody's coat, your nail would have caught on that, because you see right up here.
And you have this bend back. That's some bend. We've all been. Tell me in the chat if you've never bent your nail back. I think everybody's done this. You feel it, and you get this mark under your nail in the line.
I remember my nephew when he was like 2 or 3. He was one of those people that would just break out running, and I remember grabbing at him, and I remember my nail popping because I grabbed him so. Yeah, I popped at him so quickly to keep him from running, because but
just like when your boyfriend's trying to get out of the car from you and you have to grab and rip his jacket.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that type of injury is a common injury for doing something like that. Now, how you broke your finger, that's totally different from that. You can say that the mechanism of that nail injury came from you pulling from him when he was trying to get to the car. You broke his coat open and stuff like that. But how you broke your finger, now that's the thing, because again, we've got video evidence from the timeline showing that your finger, the only time that we saw that your finger was broken is when the police picked you up off that ground. And you saw how she registered pain. Oh, how did I do that?
Did he do it? Was it him?
Because again, if you're talking to your friend, when you're talking to your friend, clearly you registered pain at this point.
But yeah, because we do know that finger was ready purpley at that point, and she sent that picture to Holly over at whatever her time zone difference was. But it's like all the fun and games end, and now you're aware of your injuries because you say your adrenaline wore off. But adrenaline doesn't exactly work like that. Adrenaline can make you stop feeling pain, but there's no reason that you had adrenaline pumping for hours. And then she even tries to use her adrenaline story. I don't feel the pain because of adrenaline, but then the adrenaline burning off is why I finally fell asleep. But then I couldn't fall asleep, so I had to take a sleeping pill. And then I laid on the warm floor because I wanted to fall asleep, but then I actually passed out unconscious. If you think about it with common sense, it's just... It's like the lights behind me. She just darts around these little dots and tries to make them connect. But they're just separate little details that she wants anyone that doesn't have the time to sit there and take it all in and process it to not be able to comprehend as she's speaking to them and crying in front of them.
Exactly, because you miss a lot of things in the crying. Because again, adrenaline, ladies and gentlemen, if you have adrenaline, you will not ever have adrenaline working in your body for hours and hours at a time. You will be dead. Your body cannot produce that in a certain way that you would be like that for hours and hours at a time.
I'm thinking of the movie Crank, the story Crank, and I'm just picturing Grace JABBBARI running and running and running, and she's Crank.
It's not medically possible for you to have adrenaline working in your body hours and hours and hours and hours like she said that she did. You'd be dead. You would be dead. You would actually be dead. There's no way that happened, because again, the threat is gone. You're in Lucy's club. I mean, you are back there. I mean, you are really jamming out there. Your adrenaline is gone because the threat, your fight or flight risk is gone. There's no need for you to fight or fly because the protagonist of your fear is gone. What are you doing?
And nobody mentioned like her demeanor, like she was shaky. She was, adrenaline has certain physiological affects. You start to see, like, it's just because so much is pumping through your blood. Nobody testifies to that being part of her demeanor.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she was upset. Well, that's different than someone shaking. That's different than someone having like adrenaline and shock. So, and then I want to point out, BT, thank you so much. BT says she pulled her hair behind the ear. So she's got blonde hair. You can dye your hair with Kool-Aid. It'll be very apparent. You got red blood against blonde skin or white skin and blonde hair. How are you not going to see that? Not just, I get if you're just walking by someone and not looking, but if you're face to face looking at someone that just walked up to you on the sidewalk, right? You're looking at them to figure out who they are. If your boyfriend and his friend are standing on the sidewalk after you walk away and you walk back over to the crowd and see there's a girl talking to them, do you not look at her?
Hmm.
And none of these people, and I'm not faulting them for not acknowledging blood on her ear. I'm saying there was no blood to be seen, as BT's saying here. 1,000 times, she's pulling her hair. There's no
What?
blood anywhere.
What?
She said Jonathan beat her.
Yeah. And quiet as it's kept, loud as I'm about to say it. These are people who, when you walk on the street, you would want to run into people like this. So shout out to Captain Save-A-Ho and his crew. But here's the thing. They were intimately near her. Chloe hugged this woman. There's no way in the world that you're going to make me believe that a cut that we saw that side was not bleeding to the point that you would have seen it. She made sure that you saw her hair. She was pulling her hair up. And again,
if it was gushing, it would be gushing then when it happened. It wouldn't just suddenly gush at 2 a.m. and be like a little teeny paper cut. I mean, I guess technically you want to say if you split it more, but that still doesn't add up because then it wasn't a bad injury in the first place.
And then also, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay attention to the fact that had she hit her head the way she claimed that she hit her head on the top of that car, her doing this motion right here, she'd have had a bump. Did the doctor say she had a bump right here?
It's my understanding that they didn't find any of that. They didn't find, there was nothing in her diagnosis report from the examination.
The way she said he popped her in her ear, y'all, and I'm just being very real. I am a darker skinned person. He would have popped her the way he popped her. I would have had a bruise right up in here. She did not have that bruise. She's much more fairer skinned than we are, than I am. So she would have had a bruise. Now, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, well, there's exceptions to the rules. There probably are. But ladies and gentlemen, she's
the one that said it was an impact hit. We're not talking about should a laceration always be accompanied by bruising and purpley discoloration of like a hematoma. We're talking about she said she was punched in the ear. And she even said when she's getting hit by the frame of the car that it's the back of her head. She doesn't say her ears scraped across it because that wouldn't make sense because the frame's only up here.
Right. She didn't have a big bump up on the top of that. She didn't have a bump on that. The doctor didn't testify that that's what he saw on her. He said he saw a cut on her ear that was that if it was bleeding enough to where she was putting towels and stuff behind it, and it was bleeding enough that he saw her when she was lying prostrate in the closet, right? Let's just talk about that because blood coagulates and all this kind of stuff. So if she's free bleeding when he sees her in the closet, she didn't get that cut.
Yeah, she definitely didn't get that cut at 1 a.m.
No, she didn't. Because she would have been bleeding at this picture that says 3:25:23. You would have seen it at that thing. She'd have been bleeding like she was. You would have seen it. And that's just, I'm not just speaking like, oh, that's just how I want it to happen.
Or it would have been on the bed if she like somehow was drunk. Even if she was, and that's the difference, right? Because again, the problem is mechanism of injury. They're painting this theory of how that injury happened. They're not just saying we don't know how it happened, but we know it happened during this time. JABBBARI is testifying that there was a specific incident where he hit her in the ear, in the side of her head. So she's saying her testimony just isn't credible. But in general, even if the prosecution was just like, it had to have happened during that time, well, then why wasn't there blood on the sheets? Which now raises the additional question, and that's why she was scared of these details coming out. If you woke up noticing that your ear's dry, there should have been blood out there. But if your blood wasn't there because you rolled around drunk in your sleep and somehow pulled on your ear, which is like, that sucks, but you didn't stage it, wasn't malicious, whatever. But if that doesn't make sense because there's no blood on the sheets, which there should be if that's what you're testifying, you notice there's blood while you're laying on the side that's painful. You had to have started bleeding after, and you knew you started bleeding after you're testifying. You noticed blood. It's malicious testimony, but then it's also malicious in the moment because how did this get inflicted upon you? Did you do it purposely so you could look like Gloria from, sorry, what's the name? The Sydney Bluestein's window. I'm not good with titles. But you get what I'm getting at, right? She sees this play. Shout out to Detective Daisy, who put all those details together. She sees this play about a character named Gloria getting broken up with by her boyfriend who disagrees that she's, a good partner for him because she lied to him, said she was a model, but she was really a prostitute, and she was sleeping with other men for work. He said that that's not for me. We're going to break up. There were some racial tensions because they're an interracial couple. She looks exactly like Grace JABBBARI. They watched this play March 24th. Suddenly, she's at home with a boyfriend not home that has officially broken up with her, that won't respond to her 32 calls. And she just saw this play where Gloria, unable to find her resolves to unaliving herself. So this girl in the play starts taking pills, starts drinking alcohol, till the deed is done. And Grace JABBBARI is hanging out there. We know there's a spilled pill bottle. And somehow her ear's only bleeding at the time that Jonathan Majors is able to see her laying on the floor pinned straight in the closet. There's no blood on the sheets. Does the chat want to do the math? And then let's see. So Daisy's getting some details on broken fingers. So according to WebMD, broken fingers rarely go unnoticed. Frequently you have immediate pain after trauma and sometimes a deformed finger. If there is no deformity, a person will typically feel a sharp pain at the injury site. So when I broke the tip of my finger, it was like, it was a bit of a deformity. It like went to the side a little bit. It happened, and like 5 seconds later, I go into my house. It's like a couple seconds to get up in there. And I look down and I see it bent, and suddenly I felt it. Like instantly, I felt exactly what this is talking about. So yeah, there is like that brief moment in time where it has to kick in. But Grace JABBBARI is trying to extend this thing that can happen where you don't notice something immediately when it happens. She's trying to say that was hours and hours and hours of just adrenaline and shock, making her not notice she had a broken finger or any pain from it. And then usually within the next 5 to 10 minutes, you'll start to notice swelling and redness. As the swelling continues, the finger will become stiff and difficult to move, which becomes noticeable regardless of the pain. Now your inability to have dexterity in a certain way will also become noticeable, and Grace JABBBARI didn't testify to experiencing that. And then let's see. She was dry due to cold weather and intoxication, which caused her dry skin to crack as she rubbed her nail behind her ear on multiple attempts to settle her hair and nerves habit. I mean, all of that's possible. I just still don't understand why she would testify she noticed her dried blood was peeling after she woke up, because she was laying on her right side of the body and she was in pain, so she woke up and she knows the blood was already dried. Which to me implies you're laying on this white bed, the white bed sheets, and you wake up with it dried. It was bleeding while you were laying there on that side of your body. And then you come to and realize you got to peel it. It's already dry. It should be on the bed sheets. So in my opinion, you're either lying about when you noticed it, or it wasn't cut at that time. It's not compatible. You can't reconcile that testimony with everything else.
Sorry,
not surprising.
I forgot I had ordered some stuff from Wally World, and they delivered it to my door.
Heck yeah. And then, yeah, no picture, the blood on the pillow, and it was his blood. Remember, he has a picture, he has the injury where there's blood bleeding overnight, and he woke up and got to take a picture of the dab of blood on the hotel pillow, which wasn't allowed in. That's another example, though. Like, he tried to show the cops the pictures. Presumably, he also showed that picture as part of the sequence. And this other testimony, well, a cop said that there was blood on the pillow. Well, the cop could be mixing details. You take something in memory, and when you try to recall it, yeah, I remember something about that. And you don't have the discernment because you don't have firsthand knowledge. You're just blending what you heard 8 months ago, 9 months ago into the answer to a question you're getting. So
it's on the body cam footage. What you saw is on that body cam footage. What you said was on that body cam footage. So you don't have to.
We're going to cry. We're going to cry and not want to watch the body cam footage because we know it's something that doesn't look good for everything else I said so far.
Yeah, because I really do think she thought that the masses, the courtroom was going to hear the body cam footage. That's why I think she was crying and all this other stuff. I really do think she thought they were going to hear that body cam footage. And then when she realized, because you notice that once she realized that no one was hearing it but her. How snarky she got with Priya Chaudhry.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. Like transcripts are, remember guys, transcripts, we're reading them, and sometimes it's nice because you can catch more when you're able to read it, but you will not get that tone. You can kind of try to infer tone sometimes. We get indications of her crying when it says like, oh, do you need a moment? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. We know she's tearing up at that moment. But we can't always tell when something is said with an attitude or with a joking tone or things like that. Thanks to Danny, Jimmy, they were able to give us some of that demeanor context. And context cues like Grace JABBBARI would say something and then look at that first juror, the simp juror sitting there. You know, all those things are things that you won't get from reading a court transcript because it's not the court transcriber's job to record body language that's going on in the courtroom. But it can be important context to hear, and we can't see it ourselves if it's not televised. So, and then let's see. That's a good question, Daisy. So why didn't she go with Ben or to her sisters? It's because the penthouse apartment was the stage. Where are you? Call me when you get this, Jonathan. Because her ultimate goal is still to have him come back home.
Come back home. That's why she threw out, oh, I bet you're with Cleopatra. I bet you're this. I bet you that. Here I am. We talked about children, Jonathan. We talked
Here
about
I am losing my life, ready to prune myself, and you're just with another woman. Woe is
Right.
me.
I have sacrificed everything, Jonathan, to be here with you, and look what you're doing to me. I cannot take that. You're over there with Cleopatra. And he was like, did you leave the keys?
It's all a headache. Pam,
Oh,
thank you so much for joining me. I need to do some decompressing because I'll get over it quickly, but sometimes reading this, I'm like, man, I need to go like chop up some ingredients and cook something and let this all marinate and get a different topic in my head. But guys, I was gonna say I'm gonna clip parts, and Pam, did I send you the link already? So you can look at the play. I think I DM'd you.
I look at because I look.
Yeah, I did.
Good. Because when I get off here, I got to get groceries in my thing because I forgot that because I heard my doorbell ringing and I was like, "What is going on?" Then I remembered, oh, they're supposed to be delivering my groceries.
I'll say, guys, on these longer streams, and you know, if you're watching on Danny's stream still, because hers are still live, if you're watching on Pam's, or even if you're on the X syndicates of this stream, a lot of people don't see the live chat if they're not here in the moment. If there's something that was really important to, a really important detail that stood out from this any part of this live stream, if you could leave a static comment after this, you're done with this video, you load it back up, you just leave a regular comment. That way, anyone that comes across this content on any of our channels, if they don't have the time to notice the details, people read the comments to learn things. If you could read a static comment that one thing you peeped that was BS, drop a static comment because get that message out to the bystanders, the readers that are looking for other people's opinions to form their own. That's my one request of you guys in the audience. If you could just leave a static comment outside of the live chat, whatever channel you're watching this on. Pam, do you have anything else to? Any other thoughts?
If you are in here for the first time, please follow KATT, follow me, follow Danny. We do videos every week about different things, especially legal news and things like that. I'm just looking at this thing, girl. You have been on here for almost 5 hours.
Yeah, I'm starving. I gotta go eat because I didn't eat before this. I had a few calls this morning with clients, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna talk about this news," and then here I am.
Yeah,
but I appreciate you guys always for being in the chat because, and again, if you're watching this on replay, load up that live chat tab because you will see so many insights in there that might have flown on the screen in just a few seconds that you'll see a lot of insights in that chat. So shout out to the chat. They are detectives on their own. Pam, thanks so much for joining me. Everyone, if you have not subscribed, I just put her link in the live chat. Go and subscribe to her channel. And you have a video coming out sometime soon. Do you know when you want to do one?
I don't now. The next video that I have coming out is about my was it Courtney Clenny, and I'm just going to be doing a social media dive on that, and it's going to take. So I don't know when she's going to court or not, but I do have enough time, so you could be looking forward to that. I think my next video is still about the journalists and how now that you're laid off, you're starting to see certain things and do certain things. I think I'll piggyback off of that because I've got some great engagement in the comments in regards to that.
Yep. So you
And
guys stay tuned for that. The Courtney Clenny case is really interesting too. Even if I think that she's appropriately charged, and I think the jury will find it pretty easy to come to a guilty verdict if there's not something insane that I don't know about. But there's some very interesting things going on when you talk about the idea of mutual abuse, gender war dynamics, reactions because of, tensions within or between like foundational Black Americans and people that are not foundational Black Americans. And then this idea of, state and prosecutor arguing back and forth is also just really interesting to see. So tons of great aspects. Pam always has good insights. Subscribe to her. Hopefully I'll see you in a live chat over on Pam's channel where I'm just chatting with you guys and my hands are free. I can kick my feet up and listen to Pam. You guys all take care, and thanks so much, Pam, again for being here for this conversation.
welcome.